we are under 90 seconds away. So Hannah Diamond, as we look at this and we get the information from Lisa Darmanin, where is going to be the most critical spot on this race course today?
Well, as you can see, the start line is set up right under Shark Island, so we're expecting to see a bit of a wind shadow there, so quite tricky to get away from Shark Island. But once the boat gets a little bit closer to Sydney Harbour Bridge, there should be great breeze down there.
So just over 1 minute away before the start of race number 1 here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship. And now the dance begins. This is the calm before the storm as everyone tries to get themselves into position. Stevie Morrison, we've seen it before. Who's played it right this time?
Well, yeah, the timing's going to be so hard in terms of getting on the foils. Artemis have done a nice job of manoeuvring at the back of the box and staying on the foils with 40 seconds to go. Only oh, they've got a penalty for going outside the boundary on Artemis, though. Disaster. They're going to have to drop right back. Emirates GBR, bottom of the screen. They look well positioned at the moment, but they're not on the foils. Top of the line, the Bonds Flying Rouge take an aggressive move down behind the Canadian team here. Can North Star defend? I think the boats are late here coming into the start line. Hard to judge. Favourite pole position is up the line, and it's going to be about hitting the boat, foiling fast when the gun goes. North Star well positioned. Emirates GBR are going to need to be foiling if they don't want to be rolled over by the whole fleet. Who's got their timing right? Slingsby dives through the middle. The Bonds Flying Rouge are foiling fast out the middle of the line. Rolex pole predictor stock sits on Rockwool, Denmark, and I think the Danish should be able to drive over the top of the British from here. Look at them accelerate to Mark 1.
Just off for 5. Back in 2. It's going to roll GBR here. 1. Now.
And Nikolai Sehested calling it out as they approach mark number 1. Can they roll over the top of the defending champions, Emirates GBR? It is Rockwool, Denmark, as they approach mark number 1, looking to pick up the whole shot in the first fleet race of the day.
They just broke the overlap in time then, Todd, didn't they? You can see the gusts of wind coming down the course. Emirates GBR did a mighty job of hanging on the inside there, but it's a big gap at mark 1 here. I think that was a really interesting comment from Sehested there. Keep the battery charged. He's not talking about an actual battery. He's talking about keeping the boat fast. And I think the key to doing well out there on a day like this is keep the boat speed high. If you're going fast, you've got options.
That's going to wait for puff in 5 for the jibe, I think. Copy. Stand by.
Really important to wait for more wind to make the first manoeuvre out of here. You can see they're all pushing towards that boundary to make sure they can nail this first manoeuvre.
Slightly softer out.
Bonds Flying Rouge make the turn. So in third place, the Bonds Flying Rouge. Second place, Emirates GBR. And Nikolai Sehested and Rockwool, Denmark in first.
That's good angle. Hold it there.
You can see in these light winds, they've got the big foils on, so they glide nicely through the manoeuvres. But if you fall off the foils, there's a lot of drag in the water to get accelerating again there, and you can see great manoeuvre by the Bonds Flying Rouge. They jumped past Emirates GBR. It was a bad manoeuvre. Tash Bryan telling that for us out there. And top of the screen, the Spanish, they were early to manoeuvre at Mark 1. They found breeze, and if you do find breeze, you're just going to go faster. Left-hand side, Artemis racing at the back of the pack at the moment, but what can they do?
So at gate number 2, it is still the Danes out in front. Nikolai Sehested and Rockwool take the lead, and they will be followed around that mark by the Bonds Flying Rouge. And now a late change at the last second. Los Gallos, Spain. Now they're in the mix with North Star Canada and Emirates GBR.
Yeah, it's interesting. It shows how light it is that Spain didn't want to do 2 manoeuvres there. And I'm going to throw it down to Lisa and Contan on the water. You guys have paid the big money. Who's made the right call at gate 2?
I made.
Oh, it's really hard, Stevie, out here. I think the one thing is just being in clear air is making it so much easier and obviously minimising manoeuvres. But, Conton, how difficult is it to stick a foiling manoeuvre in these conditions?
Yeah, it's super tricky, especially on the exit of the drive. Like we see, all the boats were quite marginal foiling. But, yeah, it was, I mean, as Lisa said, it will be tricky upwind now.
So back to racing action, leg 3 of 6. This is fleet race number 1, scheduled for 4 today. It is the Bonds Flying Rouge now that have taken over the lead. Tough start for the US SailGP team, Stevie. They were mired in the back, but they've worked their way up to 7th place for Taylor Canfield and crew.
Yeah, he's going to have a manoeuvre to do on the boundary, and he'll be then finding himself in a bit of disturbed air. Top of the screen, we can see that Rockwool, Denmark, they invested a lot, sailing a big angle away from the wind to get up and foiling, but those 2 boats on the far side of the course there, they're coming across under Shark Island, and I think this pattern on the course, left turn at the bottom, early out, gets you away from Shark Island at the top, Hannah.
Yeah, I think that looked like a really nice choice to me. And we can see there's quite a lot of width on the course, so the boats can spread out quite a lot. We can see they've brought gate 3 down quite a bit to be in line with Shark Island, just to try and avoid some of that wind shadow, because the wind has got a little bit lighter and more patchy. So for Rockwool Denmark, they can get the boat really nice and stable, use some of the width on that course, and hopefully try and take control of this race. But if you get tied up with other boats in the middle of the course, it can be really tricky. Much harder to stay on the foils and build some speed and be fast.
Nice, beautiful tight cross there as you have Emirates GBR and Los Gallos, Spain making the move. It is still Rockwool Denmark in first place. The Bonds Flying Roos sit in second. They're the winners of the last event in Auckland, New Zealand. But this is a great showing for Nikolai Sehested, Stevie, and this is something they could certainly use a big win here in Australia.
Yeah, they've gone really fast here because they had a bit of a problem with the Bonds Flying Roos potentially if they hadn't got up to their angle, but they've really gone fast across there. And this is the first time since Abu Dhabi that we've seen them performing. Now, I think it's important for us all to remember the start of season 6. Well, I mean, it's been absolutely lit up, hasn't it? It's been so windy. This is a tactician's game out here today. Very, very delicate on the foils, very, very delicate with the wings, maximise what you can get from the breeze, but then you've got to be tactically sharp.
I'll try and manage traffic myself. Yeah, right turn in 10.
As Lisa reported earlier, just 5 people on board this time around. Normally there are 6, so one less set of eyes out there to give Nikolai Sehested the intel that he needs. But right now he's doing a great job as he makes the turn on gate number 3, way out in front. Tight crossing here as the Bonds Flying Roos will thread the needle. Tom Slingsby on home waters gets it done.
Rudder's coming off here.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty silky smooth, wasn't it, right through there? And I think it's interesting they talk about managing the traffic. Normally, Sydney Harbour gives us the roundabout in the middle of the course with Shark Island, and that takes care of the traffic. But this top gate here, as you can see, Rockwool Denmark have fallen off the foils. They're in the middle of the pack there. They're going to be struggling to stay ahead of Emirates GBR here, I think.
Down again now.
Yeah, to me, that right turn's really risky. You can see Emirates GBR taking that left turn. And I think if they can get up and foiling here and get that first manoeuvre across, they'll stay away from that wind shadow and they should be able to foil all the way down the course.
Yeah, already back past Rockwool. Rockwool, middle of our screen. They're going downwind and they're off the foils. It's all about sticking good manoeuvres. Can Emirates GBR stay up?
Back in the pack, there you see Switzerland in 5th place. Red Bull Italy currently holding down 6th place. US SailGP in 7th. Artemis now has moved up. They've picked up a spot. Now they overtake 7th. And the Americans with North Star Canada in 9th. With Butler Brazil in 10th. And Germany, Deutsche Bank rounding out the fleet right now. Remember, New Zealand and France not racing this weekend because of the incident and the collision and damage to their boats 2 weeks ago in Auckland.
Interested in and out of these gates, Hannah. You mentioned it there. Rockwool manoeuvred in a really weird place. They manoeuvred kind of right in and around where it was busy, right in and around the pack where there's going to be a lot of disturbed wind. GBR came to the boundary. Bonds Flying Roos have gone all the way to the top right-hand corner of our screen. They've got wide on the course. Generally speaking, the edges of the course are going to have more wind, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. And that's why we see the boats in the middle of the pack getting really stuck and that lead kind of getting a little bit bigger. So we go on board. It does look like it's pretty light. So the tempo's got to stay quite low on board. And because of the width of the course, there can be quite a lot of separation. So for the 2 boats leading, it's going to be about who gets the best shift and can carry the pressure all the way down the course.
Everyone wants to know where the wind is and where it will be coming from. So we check in down on the water with Lisa Darman. And Lisa, as a fellow Sydney resident with Tom Slingsby, do you see an advantage that he knows this course better, or is it so patchy and unpredictable that it's anyone's game?
Oh, it is so patchy out here. When you stick an island in the middle of the racetrack, it makes it even harder. The other thing is it's not a normal direction for Sydney Harbour, so not so much local knowledge coming into play. But what I liked about what they did there is they minimised manoeuvres. They went all the way to the boundary and they got on the other side of the island to execute their manoeuvre. Conton and I have been watching all these manoeuvres. It's high pressure. How hard is it when you're in the pack, Conton, compared to out the front?
The hardest point is to make sure you are on the pressure first, and yeah, the Aussies did an unbelievable job with this. And you can see that as soon as you are off the foils, it's a game changer. So yeah, well done to them.
All the way here for clearing some gas.
Yeah, well done for Nikolai as well, because they had a terrible start to that leg, but they've got themselves right back in it. Kept the boat foiling down the bottom, and it sounds like he's learned from his mistake there. He's like, we're going to go all the way, let's stretch the course wide. I think another team to keep your eye on, top of the screen, Artemis there. They were right at the back of the pack, but they're out in space as well, so a chance for them to make a move here. And remember, there's a lot of races to get to that final 3 tomorrow, so it's about being consistent. Right-of-way United States. Germany have got to be confident they're ahead here.
Softer in a second. Big righty here, eh?
I think they were clear.
Tack on boundary.
So it's Emirates GBR now that approach the DP World Gate. They'll head back up the course. Remember, we are on leg 5 of 6. So everyone heading back to the top or about where we started from, and then it'll be one short leg to the finish line. And fleet race number 1 will be complete as we are scheduled for 4 fleet races today with 11 teams out on the water.
Yeah, and the Bonds Flying Roos are down the road here. They're gone.
I know we're not going to get a foiler, we're just going to get onto the course here for that breeze. Long here, so it's a full build. You stay, Mil.
That was Nikolai just before their last manoeuvre there, so they knew that they weren't going to be going fast enough to commit to a foiling tack. You can see 30 kilometers an hour, not quite fast enough to get foiling. We're looking closer to 34, 35 kilometers an hour needed to get back up on the foils.
Here we go, potentially the last manoeuvre in here. Goobs running across there. That's Ian Jensen. This is actually his first race. He joined the team at the end of last season as the champion with Emirates GBR. Biggest, possibly one of the biggest signings of the year. There he is. He's on that wing sheet. But unfortunate injury in training before Perth. So potentially his first race in the green and gold back with the Australian team is going to be a win here.
Not too shabby as the Bonds Flying Roos, fresh off their victory 2 weeks ago in Auckland, are bringing it home as they can see the finish line, and all the fans on Shark Island are going to be very excited to see the home team bring it home. It's one more gate and then a straight shot to the finish.
2, 1, clear.
Oh, and Emirates GBR picks up a
this
penalty.
is the umpires. Penalty GBR, poor attack boat not keeping clear, go behind Denmark.
There's 3 marks.
That must have been an aggressive cross, but it won't be too expensive a penalty here. And this is, it's almost in the realms of what I call a professional foul, that one, I'd say. But it looks like we're going to get the win. Look at this shot with the Sydney skyline in the background.
As the sun begins to set in beautiful Sydney Harbor, the wind goes the way of the Bonds Flying Roos. They take race number 1 here in Sydney.
Nice, guys. Knee's still good, FYI.
Referring to his knee injury that he picked up there. Can't be that bad, Goobs. You look like you're going all right there, mate.
So the Emirates winning moment goes the way of the home team, the green and gold, as they spin it around Shark Island for all their fans there. And now the race is on for 2nd and 3rd. Stevie, right out of the corner of my eye, I see the wind whisperer, your man, Nathan Outridge. He was in dead last, now moved up to 5th.
Yeah, and he's going to have a chance to get back past Red Bull Italy as well. So Rockwool are going to get round in 2nd. That's kind of done there. They're going to be clear ahead. As long as they can just keep it foiling, it should be fine. But Italy, Red Bull Italy have got 2 more manoeuvres to do. That's going to be an interesting race. Middle of our screen, Red Bull Italy, they're in a big gust of wind. That's good news for them, but they're going to have 2 more manoeuvres. Artemis, bottom right-hand corner. They've only got 1 more manoeuvre to do, but they've got the USA in the way. It's going to be very congested at the top. The first 3 boats, it's smooth, but when you're in the pack, the details matter. Big moment for Artemis versus USA right now.
So Rockwool, Denmark will bring it across as the water shimmers here in beautiful Sydney Harbor. It will be the Danes finishing 2nd. Emirates GBR, the winners of last season, they finish in 3rd. And now it is all on. Artemis trying to build that speed, and here comes Red Bull Italy.
Yeah, they really overturned there. They turned too far. They lost a lot of speed. It was a hard manoeuvre, but they didn't manage to execute it. Red Bull Italy, nice job. They're going to get themselves right back in it. And this is what we expect from Phil Robertson.
And Los Gallos, they're cutting right in front as well. So a big pickup for the Spanish as they go from 8th to 5th.
Yeah, this is their kind of conditions as well here, I'd say, really, as we can see the US team. They're going to be 6th. Artemis so close. They nearly got back to 4th, but ultimately for them, they had a terrible start to that race. So they're probably not too unhappy with that race.
It'll be Jeremy Deutschebank that looks to be locking in the 8th position. And then the battle for the scraps that are left. Mubadla Brazil, Martini Grail trying to get her team some points here as Switzerland trying to make a move as well. And North Star Canada on the outside looking in here. The race is on. The battle is on for that 9th place.
Just rolling into a job.
I don't think Sebastian Snyder's going to get her.
I I think it's, we're going to look back at the fleet there. We see the German boat coming across the finish line there. Mubadala, Brazil, that's a nice job because this is a really new team. Sibello, Goodison, they couldn't get out here for some family reasons there. So we've got Rich Mason in at the back. They've had to bring in Jeremy Wilmot doing the doing the wing trim on board that Mubadala, Brazil. So a whole new team. And they've had to work really, really hard here as Canada dived inside Switzerland. Switzerland first on the foils, but they're fighting over the final point up for grabs here.
1 point available as Martini Grail and Mubadala, Brazil will claim 9th, and now they will fight it out. A drag race here in Sydney Harbor. Who is going to take that final point? And right now the advantage going the way of Sebastian Schneider and the Swiss.
It's favored at the top.
SailGP, Stevie, as we have learned in many seasons past, every single point matters on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad start for North Star and Switzerland here. They've already got work to do, but, well, yeah, it's tricky racing, isn't it? I think it's very easy to have a bad one out there today.
Under 120 to go, Italy, Red Bull Italy, the first team into the start box. Hannah, how do you see this thing changing from race number 2, or from race number 1, excuse me?
Well, I think Artemis got shut out at the top, so the team's going to have to be really careful they don't end up in that same position for this race. Really costly for them in that first race.
Watch out, Canada, 25.
So 1 minute away before the start of race number 2 here in Sydney Harbor. This is the beautiful Harbor City, and there you see Shark Island at the top of your screen, which will come into play. We'll have more on that as we check in with Lisa Darman. And all right, Stevie, how do you like the setup here? Who do you think have put themselves in the best position?
A lot of the boats a bit earlier back this time, Todd, so I like the positioning there for the teams. They've obviously learnt, they'll have been looking at that time, and the coaches on the shore will have analysed that. But we can see right-hand side here, Rockwool Denmark have got a chance at a run up here. They could wind things up. Rolex pole predictors on Mubadala, Brazil, but it's going to be hard to accelerate from there. Bond's Flying Rouge, they're in disturbed wind out the back, bottom of our screen as well, struggling to find a gap. If they can get foiling, they're going to have a chance at it, but I don't like where they are at the moment with 16 seconds to go. The Swiss and the Spanish, top of the screen. Can they accelerate the boat and hit the line? Spain's foiling at the top of the line, not sure if there's going to be a gap. It's all about lining it up now, the Swiss. Could they go from 0 to hero in race 2 here in Sydney? What a start by Seb Schneider when he needed it. They're going to roll over the top of the fleet, and it should be a big lead for the Swiss at Mark 1, and Los Gallos on board the Spanish boat. They're coming in hot too.
And big problems in the back of the start box for Artemis and Rockwool Denmark. They are off the foils, as are the Bond's Flying Rouge. And now we turn our attention to the front of the fleet. It is Switzerland, it is Los Gallos, Spain, and Mubadala, Brazil, top 3.
Going to learn all about this Swiss team now because they've got every chance here. They've started beautifully now in a big gust of wind, the darker patch of water there. That's what the sailors are looking for. That's how they read the breeze. If it's darker, there's more wind. Right hand side of screen, Emirates GBR off the foils. A lot of the boats that were good in race 1 are out the back. It's going to be that kind of weekend, Todd. Hard to be consistent.
A nice lefty coming at the boundary.
So expect to see all of these boats kind of stretch their way out to the boundary so they don't have to make their first manoeuvre and sail back through the disturbed wind. All the boats are still on that first leg creating for the leading boats.
So you've got Switzerland, Spain, and Brazil, 1, 2, and 3, and then a massive gap back to US SailGP team, currently in 4th as they make the turn at mark number 1. So Stevie, the question is this the kind of race course today with the conditions that lend itself to making up and making passes?
Yeah, I mean, the saying in England is it's not all over till the fat lady sings, and that is for sure the game here. The ferry, till you cross that finish line, anything can happen out there, for sure. But once you're out in front like this, I think it's about focusing on the basics. And the basics are keep the boat fast so you can execute foiling manoeuvres and have a look for breeze.
I like the right turn at the bottom.
Okay, so Sebastian Schneider tipping his hand just a little bit, wants to make a right turn at the bottom, and there's the maneuver. Comes in at the DP World Gate, gate number 2. Did he make the right call? Well, let's check in with the smartest people down on the water, Lisa Darman and Content Delapierre. Lisa, what do you like, and did the Swiss make a good call there?
Pressure left all the way.
Yeah, I think they made a good call, but you know what? We're having 30-degree shifts out here. There's big clouds everywhere, so you know it's really hard to call, but they're doing such a good job to get around the racetrack. Content, what do you think? Is the right turn the good way to go?
Yeah, I pretty like the right turn, and yeah, I mean, massive I mean, the fleet is super spread everywhere in the race course, so yeah, just looking for pressure, and for the moment I agree with you, right turn at the bottom looks good.
Contan, we're just watching Mubadala Brazil. They're going round in third position right now. Can you explain to us how hard it is to bring in a new wing trimmer and a new strategist to a team and then be sailing this well?
10 seconds.
It looks like it's not that new. Honestly, they are putting together some really nice maneuvers, but of course it's the worst condition for new flight controllers. A lot of transitions, doing H1, skimming, foiling. Truly not the day you want as a new wing trimmer.
Talk about getting thrown right in the fire. We appreciate Quentin Delapierre, the driver for DS Team France, joining us as their boat gets repaired. The good news is we're hearing that DS Team France, Stevie and Hannah, will be back on the line when we get to Rio. So a penalty being issued once again to Emirates GBR, so they'll have to drop back, currently in 7th place. The leaders right now out on the water in race number 2 at Switzerland, Sebastian Schneider. Los Gallos sits in 2nd, so it's Switzerland, Spain, and then 3rd is Mubadala Brazil, some 150 meters back.
Yeah, we can see that the wind's really shifting a lot here. We saw them pulling the wing sail way up above the middle of the boat there to try and keep it foiling. They are foiling, but look, top of the wing there, 31 kilometers an hour, just fast enough to foil on board Switzerland. The Spanish are fast. Spain should be able to do a foiling maneuver here, and the Swiss are going to struggle. Good chance for Spain to make some meters back.
Touch and go, what do we want?
I think you needed to have decided that before the manoeuvre, mate. That's not something you do halfway through the manoeuvre. You've got to decide if it's touch and go, whether you're fast enough early, but Spain didn't foil, so it should be all good for the Swiss here.
It's a right turn and jibes.
Ooh, it sounds risky to me to go for that right turn and jibe there, just adding more manoeuvres, but they're the ones that can see the pressure on the water. If it was me, I'd be wanting to make the course as simple as possible.
Yeah, I think this time when you bear away from the wind at the top here, Todd, that's your chance to accelerate and get back on the foils. And you can see how slow the Swiss are. Don't be surprised to see Los Gallos here get up and foiling and take a left turn like Hannah says. I like that call.
So there are the Swiss basically parked at gate number 3 right now, and the big question for Los Gallos and Diego Botín is, does he follow them and see that, or does he read it and exactly what he does, Stevie? He's opting for the other side.
He's taking a swip, but he's having to drop the foil, you see, to keep the hull up in there. It's gone a step lighter out there on the water. Lisa, have we seen a big drop in the wind here, or are they just struggled since they fell off the foils?
Well, the Swiss are actually just about to go into a big gust of wind. There's a big cloud that's come over the racetrack. It's rotating the wind right and bringing in a good bit of pressure. So we're going to actually see a punch in the wind here. Still going to be super variable and tough, but the Swiss have actually made the right call here,
penalty Australia, port tack boat not keeping clear, go behind GBR.
Oh, GBR are deep as well, right-hand side of the screen. There we go, we see the umpire studio there. That was the voice of chief umpire, Craig Mitchell, dishing out the penalty, and that's going to be a costly one for the Bonds Flying Roos. Got to drop back behind the British. That's a lot of meters, and they're already both at the back of the pack.
This is like 4 of 6, so not a lot of time for Tom Slingsby and the winners of race number 1 to get points back. Meanwhile, Los Gallos, Spain, they are up and foiling, Stevie, and looking very good. Hannah, this is a great race for them. We talked about this before we came on air. They were looking very smooth, and if they're in rhythm, this is a very dangerous team.
Yeah, they were looking really smooth in the training before racing, and we know that when they get going, they can be really dangerous.
Yeah, look at that, the Oracle Cloud left-hand side here. It said the Spanish were in more wind. So potentially 1 kilometre an hour more wind is potentially like 2.5, 3 kilometres an hour more boat speed. They're so efficient with the breeze they use out here. So just a very small percentage gain in wind speed can be a big percentage gain. Looks to me like Los Gallos have got the overtake. It did pay for that right turn, and at gate 4 it looks pretty good for the Spanish.
And great movement from US SailGP team as they currently now sit in 3rd place. So it's Spain, Switzerland, and the US top 3 here in race number 2, with Mubadala Brazil dropping back to 4th and Red Bull Italy now in 5th.
Tell you what, that was a good manoeuvre at the bottom gate there, wasn't it?
On to control and tack early.
Agree.
Your side following. No
Yeah,
rush.
top of screen. See where the Artemis team are there? Massive dark patch of water. The Wind Whisperers sniffed one out up there. Chance to gain, but will the Swiss manoeuvre early to try and get over to that wind? I think there's an opportunity for Canfield or the Swiss if they manoeuvre quickly here. Spanish have done a perfect tack though. They're boat handling, they're manoeuvring on board that Spanish burst. Get the basics right, and they've just done a beautiful job of keeping the boat foiling there. Any chance of an attack, they've really shut down here on board that. Spanish boat.
Boy, Hannah, as we look at the overhead, it looks like split fleet racing because the top 6 teams are all heading down to the DP World Gate, and then there's a huge gap back to 7th place, Emirates GBR. Then you have the Bonds Flying Rouge, the winners of last race, North Star Canada 9th, Germany Deutsche Bank in 10th.
Yeah, it's definitely the kind of day where you need to get out ahead in the beginning because it's really hard to catch up. The fleet's going to continue to get more spread out, and it's much easier to pick your way around the course when you're ahead.
Here we go, we're set up here, we see the Spanish. I think we heard the voices of Botín there saying, I don't think we make it in one. So they're just going to be fast. They've got to do 2 manoeuvres to make this left-hand side of our screens the mark they're going to. Switzerland and Spain both have to do 2 manoeuvres. But look how fast the Spanish have got the boat, trying to keep it foiling here if they can. But they're a little bit late with that manoeuvre on board Spain. They weren't set. They foil though, what a turn. Brilliant execution by the Spanish. They will own the top mark here and it should be a chance to win for them here as they foil away.
Might be the move of the race as the Spanish get it done as they pull into first place ahead of Switzerland. And now Taylor Canfield, he's thinking about, do I pick up another position? Currently sitting in 3rd place. Seb Schneider now trying to defend his position.
Yeah, look at Mubadala Brazil as well. And straight up the racetrack, but they've got to give way to the US team. Right of way with the US here. Canfield's back in it. The Swiss have parked at the final mark here. They've absolutely stopped the Swiss boat, but they have a chance to accelerate now. Big gust of wind on the mark. Excellent by the US SailGP team, and it's a race to the finish. Acceleration's the key. Swiss are foiling.
Yeah, the Swiss are back up now. They're first to foil, so maybe they'll salvage this 2nd place. Meanwhile, at the finish line, the Emirates winning moment will go the way of the champions from Season 4. Los Gallos Spain pick up the victory in race number 2 here in Sydney. And the Swiss, nice rebound, Stevie.
Yeah, they did a great job. They stayed really calm there. They let the US team in. They knew they were going to have the right of way, and then they've really pulled it through. Massive result for the Swiss team, because I know we're early in the season, but if you're bottom of the table on the overall and you're bottom of the table in this event here in Sydney, then you start to have a problem. So huge result for the Swiss. Working hard on the handles there, Stu Dodson, and he'll be happy with that race as the US team. A good one for Canfield, moved up. And talking of moving up, Red Bull Italy, Phil Robertson, he's got a bit of a taste for it today.
Red Bull Italy will finish in 4th place, and now the battle is on for 5th. Here comes the wind whisperer himself, Nathan Outteridge. He is full gas to the finish line, and he is going to overtake Mubadala Brazil, so Artemis picks up another spot. They will finish in 5th.
Yeah, if you want to see the difference a bit of extra drag makes, that was a pretty good example of it right there. Foiling, not foiling, I know what I'd rather be doing.
Mubadala Brazil will hold on, it looks like, for 6th place, as Emirates GBR is going to try to make this a little closer, but I'm just not sure Mubadala Brazil is going to have the pressure to get across the line. Here comes Dylan Fletcher and the Brits trying to close the gap, and it looks like they're going to come up just a little bit short as Mubadala Brazil able to cross the line and hold on to that 6th place with Emirates GBR finishing in 7th. 2 races up, 2 more to go. The racing's just starting to heat up here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix.
Just come to us, Martin.
And the Bonds Flying Rouge will hold on for 8th. So is that Tom Slingsby's worst performance of the weekend? Remember, we always say you can have 1 bad race here in the 2-day races, but you can't have 2. And so the Bonds Flying Rouge, the winners of race number 1, they drop back and finish 8th in race 2.
I think this event, Todd's going to be high scoring. The stand of the fleet's so much higher than we've seen in previous seasons. All boats can win races. We've seen that now. We know that. That's a true fact. See Rockwool Denmark here in 10th. You know, they were 2nd place in race 1. So that ability to actually be consistent is so hard. Germany, Deutsche Bank are going to come across in 9th.
Okay.
They need to make things start to happen for them as well. And North Star Canada back in 11th as well.
So the Germans cross in 9th. Rockwool Denmark look to be grabbing 10th, and North Star Canada will hold on for 11th and no points.
It's all about trying to control what you can control as a team. And I think the one thing you can really control is either being fast, keeping the boat quick, or minimising the distance you sail.
Racing happy. Copy down.
So 1 minute away before the start of race number 3. We're scheduled for 4 races today. Hannah Diamond, whose position do you like in this start?
Well, I think one big change we've had coming into this race, we've only got 4 people on board now, so some of those rolls are going to be jigged a little bit, and I really like where Rockwool Denmark is, as long as they can get their time and distance right. I think leading back in these conditions is good.
Okay, nice press there.
Right-hand side of screen, the Rolex pole predictor sits on the US SailGP team right now. We've seen that top of the line being a pretty safe bet, but if you can make it there in time, USA and Spain are going to need to wind it up fairly soon. Artemis, middle of the line. How are they going to get a decent start? Yet to have a good one so far. North Star are struggling at the moment, and Rockwool Denmark and the Bonds Flying Rouge look pretty close to the line with only 16 seconds to go. The US SailGP team are foiling, but where's he going to put that US boat? I don't see a very easy gap to fit through. Phil Robertson on Red Bull Italy lines it up. We're looking for the line turn. White Australia are going to be over here. Massive tight incident at the top of the line for the US team. They forced the Swiss out of the way.
Early start penalty, Germany, Australia, Denmark.
Oh, Phil Robertson shut the door on the US and the
Delayed
Swiss at the top.
starters, USA, Switzerland, Brazil.
And Los Gallos from nowhere have jumped over the top. Right, I think it's important to just say right now, those early starters, the boats with the S at the top of the rig, have got to go behind everyone except for the Swiss and the US team, who are going to be really delayed at the gun here. So big penalty for them. Los Gallos, Diego Bottini looked like he was out the back, but somehow Moses' part in the Red Sea really was his move at the top end of the line, and it's going to be a massive lead for him. And North Star, this is your chance, North Star Canada, going to be good at Mark 1 here, as the other boats are all just parking up here, trying to get back in the pack.
So a pair of Olympic gold medalists in Diego Bottini and Los Gallos as he gets the whole shot at mark number 1. And Giles Scott of North Star Canada, if he can get that boat up and foiling, the Canadians will look very good. Meanwhile, in the back, it is an absolute stockpile of cars and boats. It is like a gridlock on the 405.
Expect the Spanish to really stretch away. Artemis there, they've managed to find space. They're at foiling speed. So finally, the Swedish team have a decent position. They might even get past North Star Canada here at Mark 1. They might roll right round the outside. So Nathan Outeridge, he normally loves these shifty conditions, but he hasn't even been able to start a lawnmower so far today. Finally in the race at Mark 1, and the Swedish team going to be chasing down those Spaniards.
Really nice that they're up and foiling at that point as well, because it's much easier to get up on the foils when you're on that first leg than it is when you're going downwind.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the Canadians and North Star Canada are going to need to sail nearly upwind to generate the wind speed over the boat to get foiling. So it's all very well right now. We see these boats out in front. Any mistake on the manoeuvring here, well, you can lose a bit. It looks like we're going to see a big pile up in the pack out the back here. Los Gallos, well, they like the right turn at the bottom. Priority for them simple, keep the boat fast and just keep your head out, look for those dark patches of water.
Now it's going to get tricky for the Spaniards as they drop both holes in the water, maybe just one right now as they make the turn of the DP World Gate with a massive lead. Here comes Artemis and Nathan Outeridge. They sit firmly in second.
Yeah, it looks like a long way to sail to that left turn, but I can see wind up under Shark Island at the moment. I don't know what you're seeing on the water, Lisa. It looks pretty variable out there, but Nathan looks like he might split the course here.
Oh, it's so variable out here and so hard to see. You know, we're doing twilight racing, it's beautiful, but it's really actually hard to read the wind on the water. One thing I like about what Artemis is doing is, whilst there's a little bit of wind over there, they're staying away from the congestion of the fleet that's still sailing down the course because the fleet's so spread out. So I think they'll be in a little bit cleaner air, but I'm going to ask Conton, how does he think Nathan Outeridge is doing right now?
Yeah, it's kind of a balance. I really like the left-hand side, but staying on the foil is quite key in these conditions, so we'll see what will happen to Nathan, but it's quite a good move.
Trying to keep it just foiling if you can.
Tell you what, the fan boat right there at the DP World Gate, they're getting a pretty good shot. I don't know if they're too close, but they are getting a front row seat to the best sailors in the world as Phil Robertson and Red Bull Italy sit in 3rd place. Martini Grail's got Mubadala Brazil sitting in 4th. Emirates GBR has extracted themselves from the logjam. They sit in 5th place. North Star Canada, who looked to be in 2nd but just didn't have the breeze, they've dropped back to 6th.
Yeah, and you can see top of our screen there, Artemis Shower's leading at the moment. So he's heading out to that blue lay line. That's the line that suggests you should be able to make the next gate with no more manoeuvres, but a lot will come down to this manoeuvre. Andy Maloney, well, he's normally so slick on those wheels. Looks like a gain potentially here. As we see the Emirates GBR boat, they're foiling as well in the middle of the pack, so a chance to gain. If you're foiling, you're probably going to be gaining.
What has happened to Rockwell Racing after finishing second in race number 1? They've dropped back 10th in race number 2, and they find themselves dead last here in race number 3.
Just not got off the start line, Todd. It's so hard in that start box because it's so variable. They're just sailing the boat nicely, aren't they, Han?
Yeah, they're doing a really nice job. It did look like Artemis had made quite a big gain to them, but they've just managed to maneuver back, coming towards gate 3. And stay up on the foil, whereas Artemis have dropped off, which might have opened the door for Red Bull Italy, who are catching up quite quickly, actually.
I think Artemis just maybe got a little bit in the Shark Island, but we're going to turn the boat away from the wing. Wing trimmer needs to adjust the wing sail. Flight controller's got to put a little bit of extra lift on as it takes the extra inside of the turn, but then don't put too much because the boat's going to accelerate and you've got to back it off again. It's so dynamic as they manoeuvre the boat there. Wind's changing, angle's changing, every control's changing, and we see top of the screen Artemis. They're up and foiling again, but they've lost distance to Italy. They might be able to roll over the top of Red Bull Italy before this gate 3 here.
Yep, rolling away in 5.
Nathan doesn't look stressed out,
No, he
does
does
he?
not. So Nathan Outers puts himself and Artemis in his second place, just ahead of Phil Robertson and Red Bull Italy. They sit in third, and now it's the proverbial salt in the wound as Diego Boutin is now lapping boats out on course as he is on leg 4 of 6. As we go back to the start of this one, Stevie, this was crazy because it looked like there was no way Spain had a shot as Taylor Canfield tried to thread the needle and got stuck.
Yeah, you see, there's not allowed to go inside that mark you can see in the middle of the screen, and Red Bull Italy there. Red Bull owned the mark, so Canfield took the right decision. I mean, he took it very, very late. That mark was so close, but that's why they're the best sailors in the world. The judgment was spot on, but you see for the Swiss and the US SailGP team, it was absolute last-minute evasive action, and as soon as it's that shifty in the start box and that gusty, you've got to build margin into your start plan if you want to have a safe chance of getting there. And we'll come back to the race. It's pretty confusing out there right now because you can see the Germans, as you say, were about to be potentially lapped by the Spanish here. Rockwool Denmark have been lapped by Los Gaios, so Rockwool Denmark are a whole lap behind here, but they still have the right of way over Artemis Racing. Artemis Racing have got to keep it clear. The race is between Spain and Artemis, as we see they're out here on the water, but Spain look pretty good, and Contan look that left-hand side. Spain's going back there again. Top of the screen, the bombs flying roofs, they're way out the back as well, Todd. It's going to be some serious points flying around here. Spain are going to be looking pretty good on this leaderboard, I'd have said right now. And some teams are already in panic mode.
3, 2, 1. Just to undertake the bridge.
I think one of the problems with that left turn at the bottom, which is why a lot of the boats are choosing to turn right here, is if you turn left, you end up in the lee and the dirty air up behind Shark Island almost twice because you're sailing towards the island. You've got to come back. You can see where the bonds flying roos are on the left of the screen now. They're just coming out of that wind shadow. So by the boats turning right, they're just giving themselves the best chance to sail in the clearest air possible.
And Spain are off the foils, middle of our screen here. Artemis, bottom right-hand corner of our screen, where they're going to have a problem with Rockwool being a little bit in their way. But they're foiling right now and they're fast. If they can stay on the foils in this manoeuvre, they're going to give themselves a chance on that final upwind leg. Emirates GBR chase down Mubadala Brazil in the pack. They've got to watch out for the Germans.
Let's get fast.
Los Gaios are foiling here. They look pretty good. Bottom of the screen, Artemis. Middle of the screen, Los Gaios and Spain. That's the race.
And there you see the boat positions, courtesy of the Oracle Cloud, Los Gaios. Mark number 1, they were in first. They are still in first. Emirates GBR were in 6th. They've dropped back to 5th. And North Star Canada really missing out. They were second place at Mark 1, Stevie. Now they sit in 6th, way back.
Yeah, it's been a bit of the story of their day, unfortunately. I just think they're not quite executing very good manoeuvres out there, and that's putting them on the back foot the whole time. You see here, Los Gaios, I mean, we thought they looked good before the start, didn't we, Hannah? We were watching them sail around and they just were doing good manoeuvres. The platform looked pretty stable. I think they're going to have a big lead here because Artemis, bottom of our screen, they're still second, just ahead of the Italians, but they're not in a lot of breeze on that side of the course.
Yeah, Los Gaios doing double the speed of Artemis, so just definitely pulling away. They just look so cool, calm and collected in these conditions, which is not easy. It's not an easy day to sail the boat at all, so the fact that they can keep the tempo down, pick away around the course and nail all their boat handling manoeuvres is making it look pretty easy for them right now.
Yeah, I mean, we hear a lot about, you know, Diego Boutin and Florian Trittel, of course, that gold medal winning team, but I think Joel Rodriguez, the flight controller on the Spanish boat, he's a pretty you know, he's a bit of an underrated superstar, I'd say, because as soon as it gets like this, he seems very, very good at managing that flight. And they're going to manoeuvre here, Todd. They're lining themselves up for the finish. Great news for Spanish fans.
So for the second race in a row, the folks on Shark Island are going to get a front row seat to see Los Gallos, the champions of Season 4, bring it across for yet another win with one more race still to go as the sun begins its slow set. And it will be the Spanish that bring it across the line. The Emirates winning moment as Nicole Van der Velden manning the handles up front. Remember, we're down to 4 athletes on board. And look at this, Artemis and Red Bull Italy going to have a little something. Before we get to that, though, the Emirates winning moment will go the way of Los Gallos. The Spanish win race number 3.
Yeah, and Artemis have got the right of way here. And don't expect to see Outridge giving in. He's going to push that as wide as possible, but Italy will now be quicker. We saw it in the last race. It's now a race to the foils. Right of way is still with Artemis Racing, but it's all about boat speed. Look at the top of the wing. First boat to 30 will be the first boat foiling. Looks like Artemis have managed to execute that well. They're up and foiling. Red Bull Italy are up and foiling, but right of way still with Artemis, and the Swedish team should be able to bring it home for a second place, and that's going to get them back in the game. But Red Bull Italy relentlessly consistent, that Italian boat out here today. What a fight. Yeah, there you go, Nathan. Quite right, mate. It is easier with a better start. Good to see he's learning in his old age.
So second place belongs to Artemis as they hold off Phil Robertson and Red Bull Italy, who will finish in third. A nice drag race to the finish in front of Shark Island as race number 3 comes to a conclusion as the Swedes and the Italians battle it out for big points. So now it's all about who can collect the most points towards the back of the fleet, and it looks like Martini Grail is going to try to hold off Dylan Fletcher, but same situation here, Stevie and Hannah, but this time the Brits are up on the foils quicker.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard in these conditions to actually do. I mean, they're doing such a good job on board Mubadala Brazil to be in the fight at the end of all these races. And right now, Emirates GBR, they've got the right of way. Here you go. He comes at them there, aggressive from Fletcher. Mubadala Brazil have got to keep clear.
Get close.
To react. I think they're a little slow reacting. I think maybe they just kept it clean, but you can see there aggression from Fletcher. And he's going to go at them again, I'd imagine now. Suddenly now the right of way goes to Mubadala Brazil.
And Martini Grail answers back.
That was really good work there.
So Brazil holds on for that third place finish. Emirates GBR will grab 4th, and what a great race in race number 3. As we go down on the water now, and we check in with the winners of races 2 and 3. Congratulations go to Los Gallos, Diego Botín and company. Diego, congratulations. What has been the difference for you guys in the last 2 races? Because in race number 1, you finished in 5th.
Yeah, I mean, conditions are super tricky and the start is super important, and we managed to get foiling out of it and in good shape now. I think that was the key, biggest key, and then try to sail the boat as smooth as possible between the casting lulls.
Diego, I know for sure that your coach Hamish Wilcox will be telling you to control the controllables. What do you think those controllables are out there today?
Well, it's hard to say, no? I think you need to stay on the present, on where you are. Look, the pressure is slightly ahead, and yeah, try to predict what mark to turn to get faster around the course, no? So yeah, not look too much ahead and sail the boat in the present.
Diego, muchas gracias. We will see you in the 4th and final race of the day as Los Gallos gets 2 wins in a row, winning races 2 and 3. And just over a minute away, and now Sydney, well, you're just showing off. Look at that view. That is spectacular as all the teams get into the start box, and we approach 1 minute before the final race of the day. Final race of the day here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship. All 11 boats now in the start box, and the voices, Hannah, a little more tension as we get ready for the last race of the day.
Yeah, that's right. I think if anything, the last 3 races have shown us how important it is to get off the line, so they'll all be jostling for position and do the best job they can.
Well, you see here Artemis racing at the bottom of the fleet here. They're well positioned right now. Germany, Deutsche Bank, they're up and going. Spain definitely prioritising being fast. They got the Rolex pole predictor at the top end of the line, right-hand side of our screen. 20 seconds to go, though. It's going to be about killing speed. Artemis should be able to line it up here. Bons Flying Rouge are winding up out the back too. It's going to be an acceleration game right now. We can see there's a penalty on Germany, not keeping clear of Rockwell. Emirates GBR look to thread the needle. It's acceleration here. Look for the line to turn white. Who's got the start right?
Trying to go behind Germany here. I don't want to foul.
Oh, it's brilliant out the middle by the British team there. They're going to drive over the top, I think, from here, and it's definitely going to be a sprint here. Can Artemis hang on the right-hand side of our screen there? They're going to be starting to get disturbed wind coming their way fairly soon. Bons Flying Rouge in the pack 2. North Star, they're looking good to mark 1, but can they stay there?
Nice couple of waves there, Paco.
So the 4th and final race of the day, and it is Emirates GBR that look to have the whole shot. Artemis on the inside. It is North Star Canada to the right of the Brits as they make the turn, and it will be Dylan Fletcher and the winners of the first event of the year in Perth, Emirates GBR, that grabbed the whole shot.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, did a really nice job on that. Rolex sprint leader there at Mark 1. They did a fantastic job. North Star Canada, basically they have to stay there in this race if they want to keep their chances here in Sydney alive. They need a big point score in this last race of the day.
And angle. I will.
I think as we're coming on this final downwind leg, Lee, so we saw from our camera angle there's a huge rainbow, there's a massive pot of gold sitting out to sea. What do you think the teams are going to be looking at as they come into gate 2? Is there an obvious place with more breeze on the course?
I mean, the wind has rotated around to the left, so I think that that's generally the direction you want to go. But by the looks of it, if you can lay in and just do one left turn, that's what you want. Minimising manoeuvres is everything in this time. But I think what we've seen today, Quanton, is it's so hard to call the ley lines. It's always changing so much. Do you think that there's one way to go?
Yeah, stay on the 4 for sure, and secondly, just looking for pressure, making it simple. Really like the way the Brits are going, and yeah, see the split with the Aussies, but it looks like a bit complex.
Okay, adding some rudders.
So a tight rate course there as they get to gate number 2, the DP World Gate, and on to leg 3 of 6. This is the final race of the day. If you're new to SailGP, the situation is this. You are trying to amass as many points as possible over 7 fleet races, and then only the top 3 boats will battle out tomorrow on Super Sunday for the overall title. So right now, Hannah, you've got Emirates GBR in front. Artemis sits in 2nd. Canada holding on for dear life to 3rd.
Yeah, that's right. We saw a big split at the bottom of that course. We had Emirates GBR taking the left turn, Artemis taking a right turn. So we'll have to see how they've got on when they come back together. But it looks like the wind's a little bit lighter on Artemis at the moment. So they're just going to have to make sure they build as much speed as possible and link that patches of wind together.
And Stevie, I guess the big question is, before we finish race number 4, is what does tomorrow look like? Because that's when it's going to really come all to play.
Yeah, I think we'll wait for Lisa to tell us. The forecast I saw, it looked a little bit better. So, well, a little bit better. I think this is really fun racing right now. I think what's really interesting for me is we're racing later in the day. It's definitely not as easy to see the breeze on the water. The light's making it not as easy to read the wind out there. So the sailors are having to be a little bit more reactive to what they're in. Right of way, Emirates GBR, but when they come back together, it'll be Artemis that has the right of way.
Pressure this way, trying to get enough speed for tack. Only 12k on me, it might be a H1X here. Okay.
There you go, so they're planning ahead, Han.
Right here.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you've got to do. And don't forget, when there's only 4 people on board as well, you lose your strategist. That strategist goes forward into a grinding position. So it puts a lot of onus on the driver being able to look in the wind. So if your wing trimmer can help you out with that, and then you've got to know the boat really well. You've got to know what speed you've got to take off at and see how you can do the best execution of maneuvers as possible.
So Hannah Mills now going from strategist to grinder. You see her moving up in the front. And she usually occupies the back of the cockpit. Now there you see Emirates GBR, Stevie, they are really slow, just H1, 1 hole out of the water.
Yeah, but they're going to own this mark. They're going to look to turn left here. They're trying to shut the door. Artemis have got a fast angle, but potentially if they can get foiling here, they could roll over the top of the Bons Flying Rouge, but it's really tightened up. It's definitely dropped off a bit. Top of the screen. Rockwell Denmark are back in the race. They managed to foil a little bit further up the beat here. Okay, Emirates GBR missed their chance to foil at that gate. This could be costly for them. Who can stay on the foils? Who can get on the foils right now?
So the Bonds Flying Rouge, winners of race number 1 in hot pursuit as they move up. And look at Artemis.
Yeah, and look at the Spanish, Todd.
Oh,
the
tight.
Spanish have got it on the foils. The British are up on foiling, but the Los Gallos were way out the back. They're just sailing the boat better than everyone else at the moment. They're foiling here. They're going to have to sail through the disturbed wind of Artemis. But they're making their own breeze. As soon as you're foiling like that, oh, they're dropping off. It's getting lighter.
And hook up behind Swedish probably, no?
Oh, that was so close for the Spanish, but they've dropped off. Big gains, though, back in the race, up to 5th.
Nice pressure.
I think one of the important things for the sailors on board at the moment, they've got to know the boat really well. You've got to know what boat speed the boat can take off at. You've got to know what wind speed that you need to generate that amount of boat speed. But you also got to know what's coming next. So if you're sailing into more pressure, can you accelerate the boat and choose to take off on the foil? Or are you coming into less pressure, which means you might want to choose to do an H1 exit, which is what Emirates GBR have just done here out of that jibe maneuver there.
As the Bonds Flying Rouge pick up a penalty for sailing outside the boundary, they'll try to absolve that as quick as possible. Meanwhile, the race is on. Stevie, to your point, I think Los Gallos, obviously they had not the best start for them, finished in 9th coming out at mark number 1, but now they've moved all the way up to 5th.
Yeah, no, they've done a really nice job. And I think what's really interesting here is we see the British off the foils. Content, I've got a question for you out there. Are you just desperately always trying to foil? Or how do you make that decision whether I foil or whether I just go a little bit less distance and slower?
Happy to take more wind when you feel it.
Yeah, that's the key question, Stevie. Honestly, I was a bit surprised to not see the Spanish taking the split at the top gate. Yeah, it's always a balance, but for sure you are way more comfortable on the foils. But you also have to think about saving meters, and yeah, it's a tricky balance all the time.
And right now, Emirates GBR are finding a very tricky balance as they are just dead in the water, both holes in the water. Everyone, it looks like the wind has just dropped out on the course. Complete snakes and ladders. Meanwhile, the Bonds Flying Rouge are 50 kilometers an hour at the top of the course. The Germans are up there as well.
Yeah, and USA SailGP team are going to go well as well. Bonds Flying Rouge are gone here. They need a good race as well. They've had a bit of an up and down day. Kind of classic Tom Slingsby, really. Either first or last seems to be the way he rolls out here. But they're sailing the boat nicely, got themselves in it, and you can see there that those boats coming back to the bottom of our screen, there just doesn't seem to be much wind over here. The pressure they must be feeling out there right now, it's so tense. If you don't get back on the foils, you're going to lose so many places. Look at the US team, top of our screen, Todd. They're going to be 3rd here if they can execute this manoeuvre right.
There is pressure this side.
Look at that. That is a thing of beauty here in the Harbor City as the home team up on the foils, the winners of race number 1, and they're looking for a big bounce back. Remember, they finished 8th in race number 2, and then they finished 6th in race number 3.
I just think the thing is, as soon as you're up and foiling, you're going faster, and just by moving, you're making your own wind. And then the faster you go, the more wind you've got, the faster you go again. So it's just a cumulative gains. Once you get the speed built, where they call it apparent wind on board the boat, but a little bit of speed, you just get faster and faster and faster and faster.
Going to be right on them.
Interestingly, Bonds Flying Rouge sailed 800 metres of investment to get on the foil, to sail into more pressure, to take the lead here. So it really shows how much distance you might have to sail, but if it puts you in more pressure, then it can be worth it.
Speaking of investment, the Bonds Flying Rouge picking up some high roller investors in the form of Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. And I'm wondering, Steve, if they're here in town, maybe sitting on Shark Island holding down for it.
I think we saw the Bonds Flying Rouge sailing clubs out there on the water. They've gone for tickets out on the water there. I don't know if they're there. Hopefully someone will be, well, Lisa Darmanin will probably be searching them out later, I'd imagine.
Tosh Bryant up front as she's making the change from strategist to now grinder, and Taylor Canfield and the US SailGP team really nicely done. They now sit in 3rd place. This will be big points for them as Germany Deutsche Bank now sits in 2nd place with Eric Kostgarten-Heil.
Yeah, that could be a really regatta-saving race there for the US SailGP team. Massive gains on that downwind leg there as we see the Australians look good, Germany look good, and we've got a split at the bottom here. Artemis decided to do a left turn. They've fallen off the foils. GBR off the foils. I tell you who's on the foils. Have a guess, Todd. It's the Spanish. They always seem to be on the foils, but they decide to do an extra manoeuvre. They turn back out there, and yeah, it's so tight. You can see the North Star Canada have dropped back into the pack against Spain for once off the foils here. It's all about who's judged that right, the left turn at the bottom or the right turn at the bottom.
I think we get it with pressure soon. verlo, tío, el peso.
Artemis look pretty good. They're not foiling, but they're progressing up the course nicely. Bond's Flying Ruse, well, they're going to be gone here.
I was going to say, you know who are foiling?
Yeah.
Try to build in this one and roll back. Hey,
And that's about as smooth as it gets.
hey, stand by there.
One more manoeuvre here, but they've got a pretty big lead in it because all the other teams have got at least 2 to do. So big advantage for this Australian team, and they could be bookending the day here with first places.
Look at the speed difference. Even after that maneuver, the Bond's Flying Ruse still close to 40 kilometers an hour. Everyone else hovering in the 20s.
Okay, that's a bit better.
I love it. He tried to suggest in that package we watched a minute ago that he wasn't tense or as stressed as he used to be about the racing. There's no way Tom Slingsby's never fired up for a race.
Well, at mark number 1, they were in 4th place. They now sit in 1st. And the Los Gallos for Spain, they start out in 9th, moved up to 5th. Germany, Deutsche Bank with them 7th, and now they sit in 2nd place. But the curtain will come down on the first day of racing here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix. And once again, the fans on Shark Island and all around the Harbour City will celebrate. It is the Bond's Flying Ruse that claim the Emirates winning moment and the race title in race number 4.
Yeah, really good end thing there. Tash Bryant, she's been working hard at the front of the boat. Normally the strategist at the back, I'm sure she'll have been inputting, but she's working hard on those handles when they get to 4 on board. Germany, Deutsche Bank, huge race in the scheme of their weekend here. Same for the US SailGP team. Outeridge has saved himself again up to 4th. Consistent day for the Swedish team there.
Trimming up,
But yeah, Italy, 11th at the moment. They look so good, of course, going into this race in 2nd place. This is going to really damage them on the overalls.
So Eric Coast Guard Kyle, Anna Barth, Kevin Pepinet, and they will grab a 2nd and the points that go along with it. So that will certainly shake up the overall leaderboard as we look to Super Sunday. Remember, everyone trying to get into the top 3 after all the fleet races so they can race in the winner-take-all 3-boat event final.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's going to be so.
Yeah.
They all seem to be learning that lesson, Todd, don't they? Get a good start, and the whole race is a lot easier.
Crazy how that happens.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's easier said than done. Is the problem with that one there. As we can see, the US SailGP team look good. Artemis is cementing their 4th.
I got diff off right now.
It's fine. Diff on if you want.
Anna Weiss up front, handling the handles.
I think this is the kind of breeze where the US have a big advantage with Anna because she's such an athlete on those handles, and a lot of the other teams take the strategist forward, but they just haven't got that same athletic ability as Anna has. So I think in these breeze, it's a big advantage for the US team.
So race number 4, the top 3, it's the Bond's Flying Ruse, Germany, Deutsche Bank, and US SailGP finishing in 3rd.
Oh, it gets intense sometimes, eh?
Great move from Artemis and Nathan Outeridge. They will claim 4th and the points that go with it, and a nice save by Los Gallos, the winners of the last 2 races. So 4 races, 2 different winners. It'll be the big winners on the day will certainly be the Bond's Flying Ruse and Los Gallos, Spain, who will finish this race coming up in 4th. Make that 5th.
Oh, you weren't getting the camera in there.
I think the interesting thing for today is when Spain are out in front, they can stick all their foiling manoeuvres. When Australia are out in front, they stuck all their foiling manoeuvres. So to me, they've looked the 2 class teams, but none of them look great unless they're leading.
So Spain is safely in, and their day 1 is complete with mixed results, but 2 wins for them.
I don't know if there is a chance of doing it from here, but I have to see if we have to do it together or...
So the home team bookends their day. Tom Slingsby winning race number 1 and race number 4. Tom, congratulations on a successful day. How was it out there? You've sailed these waters so many times. What was your takeaway from day number 1?
I hope it was successful. I have no idea. I have no idea how we did against everyone else. I know we had 2 good ones and 2 bad ones. I don't think I've ever raced on the harbour when it's been like that. So it was a learning experience for us all, but yeah, I was glad we bounced back in that last race and got a good one.
Tom, when you're normally doing twilight racing in Australia, you have a slightly different hydration strategy out there. How was it racing that late in the evening?
Yeah, exactly. Usually when I'm on the harbour at this time, I'm replacing my Gatorade for something a bit stronger. But it was nice, actually. It got really glary there as the sun was setting, but now the clouds have rolled in. It actually helped us a lot with vision on the race course. So that was beautiful. I enjoyed it. I hope everyone else did too.
Tom, appreciate your time. We'll see you guys on Super Sunday here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix. The Swiss and the Italians will wrap up the 11 boats as they bring it home here on day number 1 as the sun sets on a beautiful day here in the Harbor City. Event number 3 of season 6 of SailGP. All right, as we are 1:11 away from the start, Hannah Diamond, take a look at this. Much slower as they are into the start box.
Yeah, much slower today, and it's going to be really hard to jostle for that position. It's going to be all about acceleration to get off this line well.
All right, Stevie Morrison, this may not be the high winds to be expected here in Sydney Harbor, but this is still a very tactical race. You're going to have to be point on, especially in your maneuvers.
Oh, Todd, that's why I love our sport, really. If you think of Perth, we've had the Winter Olympics, you think of Perth, it's the snowboard slope style. The Auckland event was ski cross downhill, and now we've basically got the tension and the tactics of the curling about to take place in front of us now. I mean, this is just so tight. The boat's early back to the line here. USA, that's a safe position up there. I like that for consistency. Rolex pole predictor at the moment 6 on North Star. I don't see how they're going to get in from there. Artemis pushing the limits at the bottom of the line here. It's slow. It's going to be about judging your turn down to the line. Spain are well positioned in the middle there. Red Bull Italy are well positioned. Looks like there's a penalty for a boat-on-boat incident with the Australians. They've got to keep clear of us, the Italians. Line's going to go white in 10 seconds. They're slow at the bottom of the line. Out of the middle's going to be good. Red Bull Italy look like they've got this right. Can he hold behind the line? Oh, he's so tight. I think he's clean. Red Bull Italy, that's a great start. Rockwell, great start. Switzerland rotate the boat and accelerate well. Down at the bottom of the line here, North Star. It's a disaster for the Canadian team. Emirates GBR are out the back too, and it's going to be about who can build speed. Hull up on the United States. They're going to start to roll over the top.
Just a touch here, Anna. I think I'm just HG.
Everyone's searching for breeze right there on the water as they make their way towards mark number 1. The first race here at Super Sunday, and it is a slow crawl to the first mark, but it looks like the Swiss on the inside have the ideal position.
Yeah, they've got a really nice position actually up the line. The trouble with being up the line is it's hard to then rotate down, so the US had to accelerate quickly. They didn't. Rockwall have built the speed. They're going to come in fast. They'll be well positioned at Mark 1. Swiss should still lead, but I think if you're in those first 2 or 3 boats, you're going to be able to extend away after Mark 1. Tough tactical position for Artemis.
All right, Hannah, how quickly now are they searching for some kind of breeze, and who's going to be the first one to turn away?
Yeah, I think the Swiss have done a really nice job there from the middle bottom of the line, and Rockwell Denmark just coming down. This is where the race gets a little bit more interesting because the boats do have to manoeuvre, and they'll have to sail back through the disturbed area of the fleet on this leg. So where they choose to manoeuvre is going to be really important, as well as keeping the boat rolling as fast as possible.
I think Lisa has got someone on the boat that might be able to help. We know we've got Pete Burling out there. I'm wondering just how limited do you feel on options if you've had a bad start on a day like this?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot to play for still. Obviously, the breeze has gone a long, long way right. So you see those boats really starting to get down to Mark 1 and driving straight away at the mark. So I'm not sure if it'll stay like this. It's probably going to end up being a bit of a procession. But God, it's so light, yeah, anything can happen.
Go one more,
So right now it is both holes in the water. It is Switzerland out in front, Rockwell Denmark in second, and Artemis, Nathan Outteridge. And this is when he's going to have to really put on that wind whisperer hat, Stevie, because right now they are barely tipping up close to 10 kilometers an hour, nowhere near the wind breeze they need to get up on the foils.
Yeah, it's tricky. You can see it does look like on the right-hand side, it's slightly darker patch of water we could see out there. So that's where the Swiss, where the Danish were heading. Los Gaios have gone the other way. What I like about what the Spanish are doing is they're putting themselves in their own patch of water. They're keeping a bit of space. And if they can get down to gate 2 at the bottom of our screen with only one manoeuvre, that's a good chance for a little gain. So we could see the Spanish have to turn at the same time as Emirates here to stop the British team taking their breeze after the manoeuvre. I think the other trouble you have in this breeze, Todd, is the decision you make a minute ago can really, really hurt you, and you're just desperately gripping the wheel. As we come in here, we see the Oracle Cloud. What have we got? Wind speed on Switzerland, 10 kilometers an hour versus only 6 on Spain. Now that's an awful lot more horsepower. That's like having, you know, twice the engine size effectively, but can the Swiss? There's also the question of the angle, and Pete suggested the wind had switched to the right-hand side of our screen, so angle-wise should be good for Los Gaios.
Gonna go hold the jib. Nice. And boundary.
just different kind of racing as you see the event standings right now, and these are the top 3 boats. It would be Los Gallos Spain, Emirates GBR, and Artemis getting into the top 3. That would be for the event final, but still plenty of racing still to go, and things can change. I guess we can check in down on the water one more time with Lisa and Peter Burling. Lisa, is there a forecast for more breeze building throughout the day, or are we basically looking at the top end of what we're going to see?
Tight cross here, Todd. Tight cross. Emirates GBR, this is huge. If they get across here, it's going to be a big sign of relief, and they're going to take a left turn and head out towards more breeze.
Pressure out this way, Dill.
Yeah, they're going to want to go straight. So Spain and GBR, big gain here. Sometimes I think in these fast boats, if you attack the shift like Switzerland did and you don't make it down to the gate, then you're going to lose late on because you stay in that wind the whole way downwind as you're travelling downwind as quick or faster than the wind in this sort of breeze. So big gain for Emirates GBR.
Let's check back down on the water. A 2-part question for both Lisa Darmanin and Peter Burton. Lisa, first to you, what do the conditions look like and what are we anticipating over the next hour and a half? And Pete, for you, these larger wings, how much different are these to sail these boats as what we saw yesterday?
Yeah, Todd, really unfortunate. The wind was looking a little bit better before the start and it's died off. It was meant to increase throughout the afternoon, so you know me, I'm forever the optimist, so I'm really hoping that it's going to increase throughout the day. But Pete, yeah, how much does this wing make a difference to, say, the 24-metre we saw yesterday?
Yeah, this wing obviously gives you a lot more power, so you're able to get a hull flying that little bit early. Obviously a little bit too light for that at the moment, so you're just really trying to cruise along in that H2 mode with both hulls in the water. But you can see them all working the boards super hard, pumping the boards to keep things moving.
This is the umpires. Penalty Switzerland, not giving Mark room. Go behind Denmark.
It's not going to be too painful for them. That's the umpire booth on the right-hand side of the umpire studio. Chief umpire Craig Mitchell there coming in and dishing out a bit of a penalty, but they've already taken their medicine. Big losers on that downwind was Artemis, and big gain for the Bonds Flying Roos have managed to cut the corner. There's a lot of opportunity out here, and what Pete's saying is actually the teams there are dropping the board and sort of sweeping them through the water. Now that is monitored. They're only allowed to cycle that 6 times in any minute period, but I know that that's, you know, the crews, you give anyone a racing instrument, they'll work out how to push the rules to do it. So I don't envy Craig Mitchell on a day like this, because you know for sure the sailors and the other athletes on the boat are going to have thought of a way to find a loophole.
Hannah Diamond, this is your former team, Emirates GBR, flying the hole, or as they say, H1. Is this obviously more efficient because you have less drag in the water, and how much more speed can you pick up, and how soon until you get to the foils?
Yeah, that's right. I think they're a long way off getting onto the foils at the moment, but lifting that hull up the water, you're exactly right. It reduces the drag, the amount of boat in the water, just allows you to sail a little bit faster. It's a good indication to us watching that there's sailing in a little bit more breeze than some of the other boats. And like Stevie was saying, they're using the board sometimes to help lift that hull out of the water, but they have to be really careful because there is a limit on the number of times that you're able to do that. And we know that they're using the coaching booths quite often to have the coach count the number of board cycles they're using within that minute period so they don't go over that.
Much shorter races today than we had yesterday with the lighter breeze, like 3 of 4. This is race number 5. We're scheduled for 2 more fleet races. Right now it's Emirates GBR, US SailGP, and Los Gallos Spain, your top 3. And there's the boat positions and big gains for Emirates GBR. Started off in 6th place at mark number 1. They moved into 1st place. Stevie, you got to chalk that up to, I guess, seamanship. They picked the right line, and they obviously great maneuvers.
Yeah, I think they were very patient after Mark 1. I mean, Pete mentioned on the water the wind had done a big shift. Now, sometimes when it does a big shift, you can react really quickly to that. I think the trouble is in really light winds like this, is the decision you take, you can't then change it very easily. You know, we talked in Auckland and Perth, you know, they've driven it like they stole it. You can throw the boat around. You can't throw the boat around in this. You've got to be really, really gentle with it. And you know, and I think that's what GBR and Spain both did. They were patient at Mark 1, didn't rush that first decision, and it's come out well for them. Obviously, sometimes you've got to be instinctive and quick. But right now, Emirates GBR look good. Faster on the Spanish boat. Look at the top of the mast there. Back to your question before. When we see that number get up to 30 kilometres an hour as boat speed, that's when they can consider foiling. But I think we're, as Hannah said, we're a little bit away from the crews thinking about getting to that speed because they'd have to sail so much extra distance to do it.
So once again, we take a look at Emirates GBR. They are in the lead. They'll have one more maneuver, and then it'll be that right-hander at mark number 3 for the Emirates winning moment as they will pick up a victory here. And remember, we had 4 races yesterday. The Bonds Flying Roos winning 2 of them. Los Gallos Spain winning 2 of them. So this would be another winner on Super Sunday. As we go back down the water quickly with Peter Burling. Pete, the difference of this kind of racing, I know a lot of people tune in and expect SailGP to be at the edge of your seat, high speeds, but this is still very technical, very precise racing, correct?
Yeah, you've got to be super accurate in the slide air, and you only really get the one opportunity to kind of put the boat in the right spot. You know, you really got to plan it out a long way in advance. And no, I think what you saw there down the first run was obviously the GBR and Spain, you know, getting that favoured side of the course, and then GBR getting that slightly better lay line, really doing a good job of cycling the board right to the limit, and then yeah, that's why they're ahead now. But I think the Aussies also did a great job getting back from a little bit of a tough position into what looks like a reasonable result now.
No question about it. Somehow they always seem to find a way to get themselves in the top, as Tom Slingsby, a master of clawing back the points. But now the chase is on as Los Gallos, Spain, will try to reel in Emirates GBR. I think they're just going to run out of racetrack, Stevie Morrison. And so it looks like Emirates GBR is going to come across the line and pick up a win on day number 2, Super Sunday. And the first race of the day, race number 5, goes the way of Emirates GBR as they get the Emirates winning moment as they cross the line in front of the fans on Shark Island.
Yeah, that's a huge result for the US SailGP team, for Spain as well. Spain are going to be looking very good for that final here. They were leading overnight, another top result. They're really silky in this light winds, the Spanish. In fact, for the Spanish fans out there, 5th and 6th of September, racing's going to be in Valencia. Tickets have just gone on sale. So Spain are on fire, and actually Valencia often has, you know, conditions that really suit the Spanish team. So yeah, Spanish fans, get online, get those tickets.
So it'll be SailGP, US SailGP team, excuse me, that'll come in 3rd place, crossing the line. So a big win for Taylor Canfield and his crew as they open up their Super Sunday account. To Peter Burling's point, and it's probably tough for him to say this, a great job by the Bonds Flying Roos and Tom Slingsby, the Aussies. I mean, that is a masterful comeback. Currently in 5th, but they could be overtaken here by Martini Grail and Mubadala Brazil.
Yeah, Mubadala Brazil's got good speed in there. I think the interesting thing with that, yes, we mentioned Australia, actually USA as well. They were right up by Australia, and I think, well, what did they do? They did well. They stayed in space, so they got the wind shift. Like Pete said, they perhaps had the time to think about it. They were forced into their decision. Turned out to be the right one. Tight finish here.
Look at this. Look at this. We've got a photo finish as they come to the line, and it looks like Martini Grail and Mubadala Brazil are going to get the best of the 3-time champions, Bond Flying Roos. It's not going to make the folks on Shark Island super happy, but a great shot for them as they cruise across the line, and a great job by the Bonds Flying Roos to salvage that position as they come across the line in 6th.
Set up for the next one. We're here to learn.
It's interesting attitude, that, isn't it? We're here to learn. I mean, I think, yeah, of course, you're always there to learn. You've got to think like that. But Rockwell, really, you know, it's not been the best start to the season. You've got to be there to get some points coming in. Artemis 8th. That's tricky, isn't it, Todd, for them on the overalls?
Tough break for Artemis as Nathan Outeridge brings his boat across in 8th place, with the Germans salvaging some points as they were in dead last in the start box. They'll finish in 9th. It'll be Switzerland in 10th, and another tough race for Giles Scott and that talented team on North Star Canada as they cross the line. So the entire fleet is home, 1 race down, 2 more scheduled to go before we get to the event final here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship. And as we get ready for fleet race number 6, we continue to send our well wishes out to Manon. Hopefully that is a speedy recovery, and hopefully they will be on the line coming up at our next event at the NL Rio Sail Grand Prix, April 11th and 12th. All right, under 90 seconds to go. Hannah Diamond, where do you want to be in this chaos right now?
Well, I think the biggest thing here is you've got to be fast. But we saw the boats that started at the top of the line really struggled to sail the angle to Mark 1. So if you can lead from the bottom, I think that's strong. But being fast is definitely really important here.
And Stevie, as we saw the standings right there, there's some teams that look pretty comfortable, but I think there's still a lot to play for with 2 fleet races still up for grabs.
Yeah, I mean, every point counts. I mean, how much will the Bonds Flying Roos come to Roo? That error with, or not error, but they lost Mubadala right on the line here. You see here, North Star Canada aggressive again at the bottom of the line. They were parked up last time. They've shut the door on the Australians right now. Absolutely slam dunk in front of them there by the North Star Canada team. Rolex pole predictors on Red Bull Italy, middle of our screen, up the line a little bit relative to the fleets. Again, I kind of like where the US team are mid-line. They're a little bit safer if they can get the acceleration here. Canada are early at 27 seconds. Bomb Flying Ruse early too. Los Gallos are struggling out the back of the fleet here, so there's plenty to go. Oh, you can hear the tension in the boats. Is there space? No space for Artemis at the bottom of the line.
Close.
Going to be a problem for Artemis. You've got to hit the brakes, and there's no brake on board is the problem. Here we go. The US in the middle of the line at well positioned. Mubadala Brazil at well positioned. Red Bull Italy are going to thread the needle. Has Robertson found a gap in the middle of the line? Oh, it's a clear start, USA. Brilliant start. This could be the moment that gets them into the final here in Sydney, I think. Beautiful start by them. Bonds Flying Ruse have made it work, but can they accelerate?
Copy that. Let me know if you need me up there.
I think I want you to do another board and then you do one.
Okay.
And I would do your board now.
Okay, we're hearing about a board psyching penalty. They tried to pump the board on the Switzerland team there. They're going to struggle a little bit with that penalty on Artemis. They came cramming into the back of the North Star Canada team. This could be a disaster for them. But we saw in the race before, there's plenty of chance to gain here. US should be able to lead at Mark 1 from here, though, as they pop that boat up onto one hull.
Not foiling, no.
Pulling.
Oh, pulling, sorry.
I was going to say some optimists on board that US.
I heard foiling. So it's US SailGP that will lead them into mark number 1 here in race number 6 on Super Sunday. Taylor Canfield and company ahead of Germany Deutsche Bank, Mubadala Brazil, and the Bonds Flying Ruse.
I think I got to go straight here.
Oh, Todd, this race to the final is going to be so tight. Right now on our screen there, look at the top of the screen. Spain and Artemis, two of the people you thought so well set to get towards that final, are way, way out the back at the moment. Bonds Flying Ruse, Slingsby, well, he's a fighter, isn't he? And he's right in the mix. Could be keeping his hopes alive here. This is really, really tight.
Yeah, slowly.
Rolex sprint leader goes the way of the US SailGP team. Their driver, Taylor Canfield. Germany Deutsche Bank with Eric Kosegart and Heil currently sit in second place. And here come the Bonds Flying Ruse with Mubadala Brazil just off to their right-hand side.
Copy, good comms.
Lisa, there seems like the teams are a little bit more patient at Mark 1. Have we had another wind shift?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just really changeable out here. I think you learn from the first race, you've got to be patient. What they did differently is they all sailed directly to Mark 1, whereas in the previous one we saw a lot of spread. The other thing is everyone's decided to continue to go straight, except Canada's making, kind of rolling the dice now. So I think there's a little bit of favour near this point that everybody's going to. But Pete, which way would you be going? Do you think Taylor's called it right?
Yeah, he's definitely got off to an awesome start there, and I think with that kind of lead, it'll be pretty hard for anyone to get past, but it'll be interesting to see which way they choose out of this bottom mark. I actually quite like the lift up the last beat. So, you know, we saw Italy make a good gain on that side, so it'll be interesting to see whether USA drive back and take that right turn or carry on straight through.
Our thanks to Peter Burley joining the commentary team with Lisa Darmanin down on the water here in Sydney Harbor on a day we anticipated much more breeze, but right now the advanced standings look like this. Despite the fact of being in the back of the pack right now, Los Gallos Spain on top with the Bonds Flying Ruse, and US SailGP team as it stands right now would get into that final, Stevie, as they would have the tiebreaker over Emirates GBR on 38 points.
Yeah, important to remind people watching SailGP that whoever's ahead in the final race, whoever beats whoever, if there is a tie, will be the one in the final. So that's why the US are ahead in that tie break, because they're beating Emirates in this race. But of course, for United States in this particular race, hard to get any better, whereas Emirates GBR will be eyeing up some overtakes. Now, what Pete Burling was talking about was he actually thought that doing a right turn at the bottom, it will mean an extra manoeuvre, but you potentially come to more wind. US, I think that the safe thing to do in this breeze is to limit the manoeuvres, keep the speed and go straight. But if you know for sure that by doing a right turn you're going to get more wind, and if Peter Burling's seeing more wind, then there probably is more wind that way, Emirates might line up a right turn.
Leg 2 of 4 as they approach this gate, the DP World Gate. Hannah Diamond, do you agree with Peter Burling and Stevie Morrison? I'd love it if you disagreed with them.
Well, I think it's even more tricky in these conditions because not only are you thinking about the strategy of where you want to go, you're also trying to avoid the disturbed depth from the other boats. So I think US, for where they are now, they're definitely making the right call, taking the left mark, because if they were to do another manoeuvre and sail through the disturbed depth, that's kind of two negatives there. But I think it looks like as though they just as they make that left turn, they are sailing into a patch of nice breeze, and they have opened up quite a nice gap behind them, but it's not over yet because there's so much more to go in this race.
Yeah, I think easy decision for the US team there, really, like you say. Like, it's the interesting will be back in the pack. I think the US should be able to move away. And really interesting when we think about, we imagine a game of, trump cards, who's got the skill.
Right.
US SailGP, when it's this light breeze, consistently have been very, very good. Canfield likes the sort of slower, more, well, maybe he's a curler. Maybe if he was the Winter Olympics, he'd be into the curling, Todd.
Maybe not.
Tight at the bottom of our screen here, Emirates GBR. They've got to be careful that they give room to Rottwell, Denmark.
They're coming in, Dill. They're coming in.
Giving them room.
Okay, well maybe they didn't feel they had room there. So Emirates GBR obviously felt like they entered the zone first, and then Rottwell's died in. All those words Dylan's saying there is for the umpire to hear.
Giving him room.
Well, yeah, but he's making sure Craig Mitchell knows he's trying to do everything he can. He's basically trying to paint the picture. Emirates are going to lose a lot of places. Oh, there you go, yeah. So Rottwell, Denmark moved in where they weren't entitled to space. That's really costly for Emirates GBR.
Max Helm here the whole time.
But you dived in there, Nikolai. You weren't entitled to go in there. So, yes, Rottwell's... Oh, that's just really unfortunate for Emirates GBR. Going to lose a lot of places.
Stevie, this is not like ripping the Band-Aid off quickly and taking your punishment. This is a slow pull of the Band-Aid on that injury, and it's going to sting for a while.
This is going to really hurt. I mean, they still might, I think what's good, and this is where I think Stuart Biffle brings a lot to that team. See how calm they are. Little reset. Okay, that's happened. We can't control the past. We've got to think about the next right move. Keep making good moves. Tight on board here, and we can see Artemis are having to give space to a lot of... Oh, my life.
Awfully close.
Yep. Giles Scott's entitled to room in there. Nathan Aldridge has got to open the door.
Mercy.
It's just so painful. They make that one decision and they're tight for a mark a long way out. They're not quite right on a cross. Oh, and it's just hurts and hurts and hurts.
This is like trying to park your Rolls Royce in a spot intended for a Cooper Mini.
Well, but a Rolls Royce has got a set of brakes. These things don't have brakes, Todd. That's the problem. You can wiggle the tiller around. Well, Pete, how do you stop one of these things in this light breeze? How do you actually manage to slow up?
Rolling here.
Well, I think the hard part, if you do have to slow up, is getting accelerated again. But, I mean, you can use the rudders a lot to park it, but pretty painful beyond that, as you can see.
So right now it is US SailGP way out in front. They have a massive lead as they approach on this penultimate leg, leg 3 of 4. It'll be mark number 3, and then they'll take a right-hand turn, and then it's off to Hallelujah Land. If they make the final, Stevie and Hannah, this will be the first time they made a final since December of 2024, so it would be a big moment for Taylor Canfield and the US SailGP team.
Yeah, well, last time we had a really quite light wind event, Todd. That was back in, I think that was back in
Middle
Dubai,
East, yes.
wasn't it? Yeah, a long time ago. So, yeah, I mean, definitely it's a super strength for them. I mean, all these sailors the great thing about sailing. I made the analogy to the Olympics, but I think it's very true. You have to be able to be a 300-meter, 400-meter runner or a 10,000-meter runner. Different skill sets, and people like Pete Burling, they've got that cross-discipline ability, and some of the sailors are maybe a little bit more specialised at one end of the scale than the others. The very best, Burling, Slingsby's, your Fletchers, all these people, they've got the ability to do all of those disciplines and still get consistent results.
Hannah Diamond, as you know better maybe than most of us, as you've been on these boats before, to be successful in SailGP, you have to be basically an all-terrain vehicle. You have to be able to handle this light breeze and then the big stuff you get in Perth and Saint-Tropez.
Yeah, and I think being able to adapt to those conditions is super important. And don't forget, quite often these boats sail with 6 people on board, and currently we're sailing with 4. So you've got to be able to, for a lot of people on board, they have to change the role on board that they're doing and adapt to these conditions. And you don't get a lot of time to get in sync with the conditions of the day. So being able to do that really quickly is important as well.
So right now for our good friends on Shark Island, maybe not quite the sizzle they were anticipating, Stevie, here in the harbor city of Sydney, but they are seeing a tactical, masterful race right now, and right now it is the SailGP team, US SailGP team, I should say, that is out in front as they make the turn for home.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be blowing the froth off the Fosters out there today, Todd, but it's just tense, isn't it? It's so tense, the racing, and so tactical. And right-hand side of screen, the Bonds Flying Ruse, they've got a potential 3rd place here. They show us 6th. They have the right of way. Los Gaios, Emirates GBR, Rottwell are going fast, bottom left, but they're going to have to give room for the Bonds Flying Ruse to get in there if they can make it.
And Germany just had to make another maneuver, so they're going to slow down. So here come the Bonds Flying Ruse, here comes Emirates GBR, Los Gaios, and Denmark, all opting to try to get that 2nd place because that means more points.
Well, it's huge, isn't it? It's so huge. US about to finish top, but Rottwell coming in really fast at the top.
And as they approach the line, race number 6, the second fleet race on Super Sunday goes the way of the US SailGP team as Taylor Canfield brings it across the line to pick up the maximum points.
Good result for them. Anna Weiss there, as I say, I think super strength when she can be the only one on the handles. I think just that pure athleticism really good. Germany are going to be good. They've got right of way. Right, who's got right of way here, Todd? Los Guys touched the zone. They are not entitled to room with Germany. They are entitled to push Rockwell out the way. Rockwell needs to know he can get round the front of the Spanish. We can't quite see it this angle. There we go. We come back now. Rockwell, they're fast. They're going faster. I think they're going to be okay. Brave by Sir Hesed. He's judged that perfectly there. Emirates GBR in a tough spot now.
And Emirates GBR dropping back to 6 spells good news for Taylor Canfield and US SailGP team, because that gives them the nod in the head-to-head. Meanwhile, Tom Slingsby and the Bonds Flying Roos, again, clawing back points. They were in 7th, now they're in 6th. And they are right on the heels of Spain.
They are. They're going to be in a tussle with Mubadala again on this final leg to the finish. I think they might be about to lose the Brazilians on the final sprinters to the finish again. Look at the speed on Mubadala, Brazil.
I'll call the Viking. Go Viking.
So it's H1 for Martini Grail and Mubadala Brazil as they move from 7th into 6th. They pick up 2 positions right there, and they may not be done as they now have Diego Botín and Los Gallos in their crosshairs.
Yeah, I mean, Botín is so consistent though, isn't he? That Spanish team, I mean, yes, they're nearly matching speed with Mubadala right now. It's been a costly one for Artemis this. They're going to need a minor miracle to get to the final. Look at them in 10th, left-hand side of our screen, that leaderboard there. Another tricky one for North Star. This is a weekend they want to forget. They're going to want to get on the plane home pretty soon here because it's been a tough one for them. Spain get it in 4th. Mubadala, another good result. It's been a good weekend so far for Martine and the team.
It will be Mubadala Brazil that crossed the line in 5th place. And it looks like Tom Slingsby and the Bonds Flying Roos in front of their friends and family on Shark Island will finish in 6th. And that may be enough to keep them in a safe spot, top 3 in that event final. But Emirates GBR, Stevie, they were in 4th, then it was 5th, and they have dropped back. They're going to finish in 7th place.
Yeah, well, they got so hurt by Rockwell, and I mean, that's an interesting one from a rules perspective, isn't it? Is Rockwell got a penalty, but Rockwell still ended up finishing way ahead of Emirates in that race, and Dylan will definitely, I know for sure, claim that his whole race was affected by Rockwell. As we see Phil Robertson putting the squeeze there, Artemis are going to try and dive.
So the battle is on now for 8th, 9th, and 10th with Seb Schneider and the Swiss bringing up the rear as Emirates GBR cross the line in 7th officially. Right now we sit it down on the water and we visit with the winning team in race number 6. It'll be US SailGP team and their driver Taylor Canfield. TC, that was a great race. Not the fastest we've seen, but you guys really seem to excel in this light breeze. What are you finding out there and what are you anticipating in the next race?
Yeah, really tricky racetrack. You know, we're just trying to connect the puffs and stay in phase. And yeah, you know, got off the line really well, which helps. And yeah, when you're out in front, it seems to be a lot easier, so hopefully do that next race.
Taylor, you seem to be being pretty conservative at the start, keeping yourself out of the fight. Is that conscious decision?
Foolhardy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just, you know, there's a lot of bad air around a big pack of boats, so, you know, the more we can stay clear of that, the better we're going to be long term. So overall, that's been the strategy, and so far working all right.
Taylor, appreciate the time. Let you get ready for the 7th and final fleet race here. So under 90 seconds to go, and it is all on the final fleet race here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix. There are the current standings. Remember, the top 3 move on, and Emirates GBR, Ben Ainsley's team, 1 point out behind the Aussies, so they would love nothing more than to ruin the Aussies' weekend and really disappoint a lot of people on Shark Island, not seeing the Bonds Flying Roos make it to their own event final, as we are now 1 minute away from the start of the race. All right, Hannah, this is a big one, and now we start talking strategy. Obviously, the USA wants to keep their position there. Spain doesn't want to do anything to get themselves into trouble, but if you're the Bonds Flying Roos, Emirates GBR, you got to make sure you're at the front end of the spear.
Yeah, that's right. It's pretty hard in these conditions to impact any of the other boats. You've got to make sure that you're lined up nicely. I'd say the US are in a pretty good position. Emirates GBR are a little bit far towards the back of the box, but coming on the speed.
Behind us, which I'm not too stoked about. Come on, Switzerland, come on.
Oh, so Artemis have got a penalty turn too late next to the Bonds Flying Rouge. Big error there by Alteridge. He's going to have to drop behind the Australians. Rolex Pole Predictor sits on Bumbadla Brazil, but will they be able to wind it up from there? USA are well positioned again. Canfield's managed to find space amongst the mayhem in the middle of the line there. He's going to be able to wind it up. Australia, the Bonds Flying Rouge are slow at the moment. So are Emirates GBR. Spain already in the final. We're taking it easy. We're looking for the line to turn white. Canfield's lining it up at the bottom end of the line here to accelerate towards the gun. Clear start, great speed. North Star Canada coming through fast. They might manage to jump out, but again, it's the US SailGP team well positioned. Red Bull Italy, they've got to win the race to have any hope of getting to the final.
Pushing pretty hard, going back up with it.
Canada have gone through that gap real fast. North Star, they seem to love the last race of these events. They won the last race in Perth. It's been a disastrous weekend so far. Can they leave with some good news?
Look at this, Los Gallos out the back. The Spanish may be feeling confident that they've done enough work to keep themselves in the top 3. So they sit in last place. Emirates GBR currently sitting in 8th place, or 9th make that, but it is Rockwell, Denmark leads them to mark number 1 in the final fleet race here in Sydney. It is Red Bull Italy in 2nd, North Star Canada, and then the US SailGP team in 4th.
Yeah, well, Spain are in the final, Todd. Mathematically, other than having a crash and getting penalty points, they would be in foiling. The Rolex, there you go. Sir Hested's got the lead and he's snuck it away. Got the speed in. Got to be smooth from here, though. Pete, you've been in a lot of these sort of race to the final situations. How much option do you actually have to watch other boats that you're specifically racing, or are you just racing your own boat?
I'll chuck diff in the turn-head. Turning up in 5.
Happy to leave, lady.
Sorry, that was maybe a bit of a quick throw. Perhaps should have given Pete a little bit more warning for that question. We see there straight down to the bottom of Rockwell, Denmark. Wow, silky smooth, massive gain, massive lead. They're going to be gone here. The race for the final is so crucial. Australia are struggling to make Mark 1. It looks like we've had a massive wind shift here. And in fact, Australia can't make Mark 1 without manoeuvring. This is a nightmare for the Bonds Flying Rouge. They've never not made it to the final here in Sydney. Every season we've been here, they are way out the back. Emirates GBR, United States and Australia, it's whoever finishes ahead of whoever in that race to the final. So for Emirates and the US, this is great news. Slingsby's got to find a rabbit from a hat right now.
You can see that wind rotated all the way around to the left, so Rockwell, Denmark pretty much sailing straight up the course to the next mark at the moment.
Could be a little chance if the Australians can get foiling here. They can find a gust of wind from somewhere, but he's really hoping, and hope is not a good strategy.
Slow it down, slow it down.
Tight at the bottom right-hand side of the screen there, you see Emirates GBR and USA. Fletcher knows he just needs to beat the US. Here we go, bottom left-hand side there, race to the final. At the moment, it's Red Bull Italy who need to gain 1 place. Remember, a tiebreaker. If USA lose a place here, then the Italians will be ahead of them. Any tiebreaker is settled by whoever beats whoever in the last race. So this is all on here for these teams.
Nice big clue to you.
Absolute gridlock at the bottom of the course of the DP World Gate, as you see Emirates GBR, who have vaulted themselves up into a top 3 position, currently in 6th place, as they move up to 5th, just behind Bumbadla Brazil. The US now holding down 6th. But Stevie, to your point, terrible finish for the Australians. The Bonds Flying Rouge currently sitting in 9th place and just looking for some breeze.
Yeah, and he's got to try and keep himself up to speed. He's really close. It's actually, it's a parking lot on this right. So it's such a big wind shift that you'd have to sail about 300, 400, 500 metres more if you did a left turn at the bottom there, and you'd be out of the wind. So every boat, they could turn right or left, but actually the advantage is so much to the right turn. Another penalty for the Bonds Flying Rouge. Got to drop behind Spain.
So for the Bonds Flying Rouge, coming off a big win at the last event in Auckland, and they are in jeopardy now of not making the home final here in Sydney. As we check in down on the water for the latest on the weather report, Lisa Darman, what do you see? What does the weather look like for the rest of this race, and what does it look like for the event final coming up in a few short minutes?
Well, a big left shift and the breeze has pushed in. We saw F50s on the foils, which is really nice for everybody on Shark Island. But Pete just made a good point. This might be the shortest SailGP race ever, Pete.
Yeah, it looked pretty short there, didn't it, with the Denmark popping on the foils and getting around the racetrack in good shape. But I mean, awesome race going here between Italy and USA for that final spot in the grand final.
And the Emirates winning moment in the 7th and final fleet race here in Sydney goes the way of Nikolai Sehested, and Rockwell, Denmark snuck that one in on us on a very fast beat to the finish line. They get the win. It looks like Red Bull Italy's going to hold on for second possibly, and then you've got North Star Canada with a good third place finish, but Stevie, that's a little too late for them. They needed that result on day number 1.
Well, yeah, I mean, they needed the trouble when you have a big shift in the wind like this, to Hannah's point, you see they're nearly sailing straight top of our screen where my bundle of Brazil is. That's the mark they're all going to. The wind's come to the top left-hand corner of our screen. It's changed angle. It was coming straight down our screen. It's come to the top left. So they're all able to get right up the course. And as soon as you're following another boat in that cut, you hear about, you know, following a car and you're in the slipstream and stuff. Trouble with a slipstream in a sailing boat is it's actually disturbed wind from the boat in front, less horsepower, you're just going to go slower. So overtaking on a course where you can only follow is really, really hard. There's no tactical options, which is great news for the US team at the moment, basically, because all the boats behind them are struggling to overtake. So yes, they're in 6th, but they just need to not lose another place, and they'll be ahead of Red Bull Italy, and they'll be in the final.
Another foiling sighting out on the waters. Mubadala Brazil currently in 4th place and coming to the finish line with a great way to finish here in Sydney, giving the fans on Shark Island something to cheer about. So the Brazilians will finish in a top 4 position, just ahead of Emirates GBR. And what a performance by the Spanish, Stevie. Although they sit in 8th place, they did their damage on day number 1, picking up those 2 wins. That gave them enough points to have this breathing room here on day 2.
Yeah, they did. And the Spanish, I still think in this light stuff are really strong. He really was very low risk in the start. Emirates GBR, man, I mean, they are monsters, aren't they? It looks like another final here. I mean, it sounded like Sir Ben had maybe been out celebrating a night earlier there, from what I heard on the one before, but clearly the rest of the crew didn't celebrate Hannah's birthday. Hannah, you know, will be only celebrating should they get the win here, but they are just relentless in their getting to finals lately.
And there is Emirates GBR coming in front of Shark Island. They are the defending champions from this event last year, winning here in Sydney as US SailGP team crossed the line, almost punching their ticket for sure into that event final, finishing in 6th place.
Huge, huge result for the US SailGP team.
And then the gap to Germany Deutsche Bank, and there is Los Gallos, Spain in 8th place. But again, as we mentioned, 2 wins on day number 1 had them way out in front, so they had margins of error to play with, and they will bring it home safely, and they will be in the event final here in Sydney.
Yeah, and it's an interesting final, isn't it, when we see that, because we're going to potentially, 3 boats only on the course. There effectively will be a lot more wind speed. You know, there'll be a lot more opportunity to get on the foils. I think that will suit Emirates GBR in Spain, perhaps more than the US SailGP team. But Canfield is so good in the pre-start that he might be able to muscle that boat ahead. So it's going to be a very interesting fight. Bond's flying route 10th. Nightmare, absolute disaster.
Well, Stevie, I'm going to turn our attention to the smartest person in our gallery, of course, that being Hannah Diamond. Just a few IQ points ahead of Tupai. But Hannah, what do you think as you look at that final? Who do you like? Who do you favor in these conditions?
Well, I think, you know, over the weekend, the Spanish have been the most consistent team by far, but I think, you know, for Emirates GBR, they probably wouldn't say that they've had their best sailing weekend here, but to still be able to make that final and put yourself in a shout has got to be pretty good.
So a tip of the cap for the Bond Flying Roos as they come across and finish in front of their friends on Shark Island. And then it'll be Artemis, who really had just a negative second half of Super Sunday. And they will come across the line and just missing out. And that means the 7 fleet races are now complete, and it is on to the final here on Super Sunday at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix, part of the Rolex SailGP Championship.
Yeah, we're trying to decide if there's much wind out of Mark 1. It definitely looks like where we are sitting here at the windward end of the line, there'd be enough to get foiling, and I mean, you can see GBR and USA popping a hole there. But yeah, it looks super light down that first run, so it's going to be all to play for sure.
Pete, as we get to 2 minutes to go before the start of this race, when you get into an event final like this, and you've been in many of them, and there's just 3 boats out there, how much are you racing against the other 2 boats, and how much are you trying to basically just stay away from them and not just get in their space?
Well, that's definitely the trick, is to, you know, if you can be the boat that's in free space away from the other 2 going fast, you normally lead at Mark 1, but definitely easier said than done. You know, all 3 boats are a long way apart at the moment, so it'll be pretty interesting to see how this plays out. They all seem to be setting up super high in the start box, and obviously the Spain are coming in super late there, so it's pretty unconventional what's going on at the moment, but yeah, going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. It's interesting to Pete's point. They're all saying that towards the top end of the line, so more to the left-hand side of our screen, that's where there's a little bit more breeze potentially. So don't be surprised to see the boats trying to hit there to find that extra wind to get foiling at the gun. 1 minute and 7 seconds to go. Spain, by coming in late, they get to make their plan based off what they see from everyone else.
So T-minus 1 minute before the start of the event final here at the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix. Will it be the USA, will it be Great Britain, or will it be Spain walking away with the 10 season points?
Spain late to manoeuvre. I think Spain are going to be very close to being late already here. There was an aggressive little manoeuvre by Emirates GBR, and we can clearly see the plans from the two teams. Emirates GBR trying to control the shorter inside route. Still feels early. Could be good news for the Spanish. Canfield very, very early at the line. Rolex pole predictor sits on him. The favoured position, the optimal position, speed versus distance, is where that blue Travelator sits at the top end of the start line here. Spain winded up. They're going to have the best chance to be foiling at the gun. Has Botin pulled the trigger just on time? He's going to be at the bottom end of the line. They're getting fast. I'd love to see the speed at the top of the wing here. Got to be close to foiling speed right now. 8 seconds to go. USA winds it up. Emirates GBR winds it up. Who's going to get this timing right into the gun? Oh, it's brilliant from Emirates GBR, absolutely on the nose there, but can any of these teams get foiling? USA, hull comes high, they've got a gust of wind, they look to accelerate. They foil on Emirates GBR. Oh, they're going to be gone at Mark 1 here. They've nailed that. Parco, the magician on the flight control, gets the Emirates GBR foiling, and they're going to lead at Mark 1.
Hey, we can get to lay.
Yeah, everything for speed here. Get it going.
Pressure good all the way.
US SailGP team also up on the foils as they approach mark number 1. Here comes Taylor Canfield on the right-hand side, trying to close down Emirates GBR, who will have the inside line, and they'll grab the whole shot.
Oh, Emirates have tactical control. Can they cling on inside? USA are going to be trying to get to put the disturb wind onto the Emirates boat. They'll come to the boundary. Emirates and USA will have to manoeuvre. It's going to come down to an accuracy of manoeuvre competition. Can any of the teams stay foiling? Emirates board fires. They turn. US turn. Can they stay foiling on either boat?
And turn it.
Here it comes for US SailGP. How silky smooth can they be?
Emirates nailed it. They stayed on the foils. Look on the left-hand side of your screen. Does that hull stay dry? It does. Oh, Hans Henken, that was beautiful. They're just foiling there, but they're going to sail into the disturbed wind of Emirates GBR. Emirates fall off the foils. This could be the moment for the US SailGP team.
Look at the speed difference, almost identical right now. Good save by Emirates GBR as they approach gate 2, the DP World Gate here in the event final.
Yeah, but the Emirates are going to need, the Emirates have to make a left turn, and they're going to struggle to get down to it. If they can go left turn, no, he looks like he's going to have to manoeuvre again. He'll have the right of way with the US team, but USA will look to go around the outside if he can. Pete, Lisa, are you turning left or are you turning right at the bottom here?
I mean, if you can stay on the foils, that's all you want to do. So I think the US are definitely going to take this left turn, a bit painful for Emirates Great Britain. Pete?
Yeah, it looks like they've done a nice job, you know, nailing that jibe, getting the ley line perfect and foiling out of the mark here. And I mean, if you can foil to the first boundary on the upwind, you're going to make a massive gain. Looks like they're doing a nice job right now.
So they split the course as Emirates GBR does not want to have the extra maneuver, to Lisa's point, and it is US SailGP now sailing away. They're finding a little bit of breeze. Stevie, looking on there, where do you see the pressure on the water?
I think the pressure looks pretty even. Once you build the speed and you get foiling, you're making your own apparent wind. I imagine the wind's fairly similar. Looks to me like up by Shark Island. Probably all the Australian fans giving it heaps on the shoreline there, creating the breeze down the course. But I think, you know, to Pete's point, once you've got the speed, you've got your own wind, that apparent wind keeps going, just milk it. US have got to go wide, wide, wide.
Pretty nervous times on board for both boats. So if you're the US, there's a lot of leverage, a lot of distance between those two boats. They can nail this maneuver, then they should be okay, but it does look light near the top of the course.
I'll be staying in H1 at the moment.
Leg 3 of 6, so we're halfway through the race here for the US teams. It's a longer race than we had before.
We're just trying to lay this, right?
Yeah, there you go. So that's the question now. Do we foil but to foil they'd have to invest and turn away from the gate. They'd have to sail a lot of extra distance. Again, that'd be interesting to find out from Pete, how do you ever make that call? But right now they've got a big lead. Spain are foiling right-hand side of screen. They're going to be eating up the distance. Here we go, the meters here. We see that's great little graphic, top left-hand side of screen there. The meters are probably going to start coming down for the Spanish, but 400 meters behind is not ideal.
Turn a little, Dale.
So they are looking for a big wind shift right now as Emirates GBR. Remember, they won the first event of season 6 in Perth, trying to get their second. And for US SailGP, this is 463 days since they last made a final. Stevie, you have to go back to season 4 in Cadiz when Jimmy Spithill was at the wheel the last time the US won an event. So a big moment for Taylor Canfield and his team.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for Taylor and sort of what I like to call SailGP US Mark II, this would be massive if they can do this. But right now, look at our ladder lines. They tell the story, don't they? 200 meters ahead.
What's the better breeze? Much better breeze to the right, course right here.
Key question, key question. So he's saying if I do a right turn, I'm probably going to get more wind, but I've got to do extra meters for that. Pete, how do you ever judge whether it's worth the meter lost by doing the maneuver versus the meter you might gain for the wind? Is that just pure instinct?
Happy to go straight.
Yeah, I think you've got to kind of go towards the pressure as well. So whether you take the hit at the time, it depends a lot whether you're going to carry on foiling. But if you can get foiling before this downwind, you're going to make massive gains. So that's really the key here, is actually making sure you do a good job of the takeoff, stick with first drive, and you'll be in good shape from there.
Here we go. Can they take off then, Todd? Crucial moment for the US team. Hans Henken, right-hand side there, the flight controller. He's going to be trying to nurse the boat up into the air.
Understood.
Oh, it looks like they're H1, but can they get foiling?
It looks light on this corner, Taylor, so...
I think we got to go here.
This could be an opportunity. Emirates GBR, if they can make the right turn, Canfield said he saw more wind on the right turn. He's taken the left turn, he's opened the door here.
Rolling into it here.
Can Dylan Fletcher, he's a long way behind, but whoever gets foiling next potentially wins this race.
So they roll right into it. There you see Anna Weiss working the handles. You've got Hans Henken on board. Taylor Canfield will have the final say as the Americans now, the speed drops way down, but they've got a massive lead. And as you look at their account so far this weekend, Stevie, it hasn't been over the top. They were a 6th, a 3rd, a 10th, a 3rd, but it was Super Sunday that got them into this final where they go 3rd, 1st, and 6th.
Yeah, well, if they get a gust of wind on Emirates GBR and get foiling, I can assure you that distance will come down real quick. Here we go. Crucial, pretty close. Can they get up on the foil?
Don't think we're going to get it. No, yeah. Go to leeward, please.
No, they're not doing it. Okay, so...
Just not the pressure they need.
Not windy enough, not quite windy enough. Hannah, it's so tense and frustrating, isn't it?
Boat down, boat down for me. Kyben, do you not think? Not sure it's going to be foiling at all here, huh?
I think one of the most important things when you're sailing in these kind of conditions is, yes, you want to be foiling because it means the boat's going faster, but choosing the right mode for those conditions. So when we see the boats coming out of a manoeuvre and they choose either to put 2 hulls in or just lift 1 hull out of the water, if they can get that decision correct, then that's much better than trying to invest in the wrong mode and sailing extra distance and potentially even slower.
Stevie, this is the first time we're going to want to hear the F word on SailGP, the F word being foiling.
Well, I think we always want to hear that F word,
no industrial.
to be perfectly honest. Yeah, we're happy to hear that language, that is for sure. You can see the US team there. They've got a big lead. 200 meters, and the fact that unless the Spanish, this is the moment when you turn away from the wind and you get yourself at 90 degrees to the wind, that's your chance to foil. You need a gust of wind there, which of course would be pure luck that it arrives when you get there. Can the Spanish get foiling?
Look at Nicole Vanderbilt going to work. Rodriguez, they've said no. No one foiling. As soon as no one's foiling, there's only one team that's going to be happy about that, and that's the US SailGP team, because if everyone's off the foils, well, it's every chance no one to do it. And to Hannah's point, you could try and keep getting up on the foils, but for the Emirates GBR team to do that, they'd have to sail across the course. They wouldn't be making any progress to the next gate at all, and that'd be a big investment of loss to hope to make that potential gain in the future. US team, they've basically thrown in the towel on foiling, and they've just said, let's just get to the mark here. All right, as they approach the DP World Gate here with the 4th and then 5th, 6th legs to come before the finale and the Emirates winning moment. We check in once again down in the water with Peter Berlin and Lisa Darman. And Lisa, question I have for you is, at this gate, where do you want to be? Because where is the breeze?
Race with Spain or?
Jiving, let's have a look after.
Well, you know, USA, they're rolling into the jibe right now, so they're going to take the left turn. I think in general there has been a little bit more breeze on this left-hand turn towards Shark Island since that wind did that big shift. But, you know, it's just so nerve-wracking out here. I know it's a lot slower than we're used to, but that intensity is super high because, you know, it's not as easy to throw your boat around like you used to. Pete, there's been a lot of chat about choosing modes. How hard is it? You know, right now it's pretty obvious that it's 2 hulls in the water, but when it is marginal, how hard is it to make that decision?
Almost looks a little better.
Yeah, I think the US did a great job. They're around their top mark, you know, taking H1 down and then just transitioning to the mode they're in now. But yeah, it was a little nervous times when GBR came around whether they're going to be able to take off on the puff on the top right. But yeah, you definitely want to be where where USA is now. They're doing an awesome job.
Okay, Pete, well, tickets have just gone on sale for the 5th and 6th of September in Valencia. Have you got any hope for our Spanish fans of being able to make a comeback, or does this one look locked down for the US team?
I'm coming up a little here.
Well, it looks like they just brought the top marks down a little bit to keep us close to target time. Yeah, I mean, for me, there's still a chance of Spain to get GB, but I wouldn't give them a massive shot of getting all the way to the front from here.
So you're saying there's a chance, Peter Burley. So right now on leg 5 of 6, it is US SailGP team out in front looking for their first event victory since season 4 in Cadiz, Spain. As they will nurse this thing home. This isn't speed chess. This is very tactical, and they're going to have to get this right. But a massive lead, Stevie, that they picked up on leg number 3 has put them in this position.
Yeah, they'll sail all the way to that blue line that you can see just in front of them. That's the theoretical ley line. So if they manoeuvre on that, they'll be able to make it to the next gate with no more, well, with only one more turn required. But by getting to the line and then being able to hit that blue circle that comes with it at the top there as we're on board the Emirates GBR boat here, and you can see they're miles behind here. They've had to do an extra manoeuvre. That circle, if the US team enter that, then they own the mark tactically as well. I mean, it's very unlikely that's going to become a play right now, but for Canfield, yeah, any US Olympic team could be the man for your curling team in 4 years' time, because he is ice cold in these tactical conditions.
Hey, 3.
So as Emirates GBR try to hold on to that second position right now, and Los Gallos Spain holding on for third, it's a good time to focus on US SailGP team. Stevie, this team's been under a lot of pressure, obviously. We've had events in the US they have not been able to win, so they are feeling the heat. But coming up on May 30th and 31st, tickets available for the New York City event, and this could be a hot team coming into that event, their home venue. Remember, only one stop in the States this year, and it's in the Big Apple.
And here we go, rolling into it.
That will be the Mubadala New York
Sail
Grand Prix on May 30th and 31st. So they make the turn, and this will be the last maneuver for US SailGP and the fans on Shark Island with a front row seat.
Yeah, and as we see that as well, so it's done here. What's interesting, right-hand side of screen, Spain, tactically, I kind of like where they are. They're going to have the right of way when they meet Emirates GBR at the top here. Remember in Auckland, it was Emirates GBR that dived inside of the Spanish at the final mark. Opportunity to get a second place, and remember, it's a long, long season. Every point matters, and Los Gallos will be desperate to get back to that grand final in Abu Dhabi at the end of the year. But what a result for the US SailGP team. Let's let them enjoy it. We'll speak in Spanish on board. There you go. It might seem premature celebrations, but when you're that far ahead, you may as well enjoy it.
So not the breezy of days here in the harbor city, but the KPMG Sydney Sail Grand Prix will go the way of the Stars and Stripes. It is the US SailGP team that will cross the line, and they will take top honors and the Emirates winning moment as they claim victory here in Sydney.
Yeah, that was a solid day, because that was a tough, tough day. And I think, you know, I'd be interested to talk to the team afterwards, but I think Hans Henken, when he got them up on the foils off that start line, oh, I mean, that was the moment right there. That was silky work to get flying then.
That was a medal flex for SailGP fans, especially for the Americans, as they claim the victory here in Sydney.
Crossing at the minute.
Here we go, Spain have got the right of way here as we come into this circle. I heard easy cross from Stuart Biffle there. Doesn't look that easy to me, but they are going nearly 5 kilometres an hour quicker.
Have I got one? Please?
He's got to be sure he's ahead. Really tight. Right of way Spain, but Emirates GBR, if they can squeak round the front. Yeah, he's made it. There you go, Emirates GBR will get second. That was tight for a moment. It closed right up, but Dylan and Co are going to get it done.
Swim it in.
Well, what's amazing about SailGP in Season 6, Hannah Diamond, is you look at the parity. The first event went the way of the defending champions, Emirates GBR, as they defend their title from the year before with a victory in Perth, first stop for SailGP. And then the second event in Auckland, the big collision between France and New Zealand, that win goes to the Bonds Flying Roos. And here in Sydney, Australia, it's US SailGP. So 3 events, 3 different winners.
Yeah, it's really shaping up to be a great season with so many boats able to take a win at each event. But it's all about being consistent across the season, like you say, if you want any chance of reaching that grand final where it all counts at the end of the year.
Yeah, and we're leaving this first sort of, I don't know, almost call it the first leg of the tour, the down under section here. We're going to move across to the Americas next, and yeah, I mean, Emirates GBR, all right, they finished second here, but they first, second, I mean, consistently, and in terms of the race to the final, wow. They look pretty solid on that boat.
Well, it wasn't a win, but second place, and that'll be great season points for Emirates GBR as they continue to defend their title from Season 5. A good performance from Spain. Hannah Diamond, we talked about it during practice on Friday. They looked solid, and while they would want the win, finishing the top 3, again, more season points.